Hello, welcome to the L1 News. Today is July 27th, and today we're doing government and social news.
And I've also got some orange soda.
Oh, and the chat is, it's very 50-50 divide right now in the chat about the orange soda reviews at this point.
I've selected the V8 plus energy to try first because technically the whole fat Fanta,
fat.
Whole fat.
V8, now that's not the vegetable one, right?
It is. It's
it
orange
is?
and pineapple.
So what vegetables are in there with the oranges and pineapples?
The caffeine fruit. I don't know. It just says caffeine level 60.
But is there any tomato juice in that?
Not all V8 has tomato juice.
Not a significant source of, ingredients. Water, vegetable juice, water and concentrated juices of sweet potatoes and carrots, fruit juice, water, concentrated juices of apples, pineapples, oranges, natural flavoring, citric acid, caffeine from black and green tea. Ooh, that sounds good. Vitamin C, sucralose. Aww.
Rip. Pineapple juice is already so sweet.
And a whole bunch of other stuff. Vitamin B12, B6, B3.
It says 50% juice on the can as well.
Vegetable juice. What do you think the most common vegetable used in vegetable juice is? What's the most garbage tier vegetable?
Sweet potatoes, apparently.
I think sweet potatoes are pretty good.
I don't think they're cheap. Corn's probably the cheapest, right?
Yeah.
Corn juice.
I'm really enjoying our Death of Flash mugs.
Yeah, we've got new merch. If you weren't here last week, check it out at store.level1text.com. There's a lot of advertisements at the beginning of this episode. Sorry.
Oh, that's delightful. I wouldn't say that this is orange pineapple. It's more like apple orange pineapple.
Was apple juice one of the ingredients?
No, but it tastes,
I thought it was.
It tastes a lot like apple juice.
Almost always there's apple in any kind of juice.
Water, vegetable juice, water and concentrated juices of sweet potatoes and carrots, fruit juice, water and concentrated juices of apples, oranges, and pineapples. Okay, so if it's in that order, I was correct. I didn't even realize that when I read the ingredients.
So mostly apple juice, but that's not on the can.
Well, it's mostly sweet potato juice, but apparently sweet potatoes taste like anything.
Sweet potatoes are delicious as a breakfast item.
This is very satisfying.
Is it carbonated?
No, it is not carbonated at all. It's just juice.
I used to drink a lot of pineapple juice when I was in college, and I eventually had to stop because it was just too much sugar.
This is 50 calories, which seems like a lot for
What's the serving size, though?
8 ounces.
Is that an 8-ounce can?
No, this is an 8 ounce. The serving size is 8 ounces, and the can is 8 ounces, but our cup is much larger than 8 ounces.
Probably like 16, yeah.
50 calories for that can? I guess that's not too bad.
It's pretty good.
It's certainly not water.
I could take it iced, so that it'd be even more watered down than it is, because it's almost too sweet.
I like how they say 50% juice on the can, and when you look at the can, you would think, oh, it's 50% pineapple and orange juice.
No.
But no.
No, there's other stuff in there.
It's like America, 50% not plutocracy.
I was devastated when I found out that the cranberry juice I've been drinking is like 40% pear juice.
Yeah, that's true of a lot of juices because it's too expensive to do pure.
You gotta give it a letter grade.
This is an A. This is it would be very thirst quenching, very satisfying. Little slightly too sugary, so maybe an A minus. But this is a surprisingly satisfying drink, having had the tomato juice V8 and being thoroughly unsatisfied.
Also, you're going to be ripped on caffeine in a few minutes.
Oh, that's going to be good. That's going to be good for the news.
As much as coffee and stuff as you drink, there's no way that's affecting you at this point.
I do enjoy the caffeine.
I try to only drink coffee in the morning. I don't drink it in the afternoon.
I bet you don't enjoy it at this point. I bet it just keeps you well.
That's probably true.
Yeah, you're not getting high anymore. You're just staying straight.
Functioning.
Yeah. But maybe this story could replace some of those lost endorphins that you're no longer getting from your caffeine, because this seems like, again, on the surface, seems like good news. Now, I will say, not enough concrete details for me here.
Yeah.
They really didn't give us exactly what they're going to do. It's just like some sort of cloudy, we're going to get on that.
FTC formally adopts right to repair platform. The Federal Trade Commission officially published a policy paper outlining how it plans to tackle right to repair. This was also unanimous. They unanimously approved this, which is perhaps a good sign. But the transcripts of this meeting, or like the insight into like the particulars of this meeting, seemed like it was very informal. It was like, what now? It was like people want to have the legal right to take apart their stuff and fix it. And it was like, they don't already have the right to do that? And it's like, Well, no, copyright and some of these other laws have eroded people's ability to do what seems like a common sense thing to do. And so they were like unanimously, okay, that sounds really good. But a lot of lobbying dollars are being spent to the extent that there's probably a low hum of the dollar spending machine that you're hearing right now, populating Washington with lots and lots of lobbying dollars.
Did you just try to explain away the hum?
Yeah, we just spent like 20 minutes trying to figure out why there's a hum on one of the mics, and we've tried to fix it, but I think it's still low-key there. We're going to try to digitally alter it. Hopefully you guys aren't hearing it right now.
Depending on Autumn's skill level. Or no, Autumn won't do this.
No.
Grant's
Grant will
skill
do it.
level.
Yeah.
We'll see if you hear the hum.
It's the Havana syndrome at the Level 1 location. We'll have more on that in a minute.
We'll also have more, I think it's in the business section where iFixit actually, because when they talk, you mentioned how these guys were kind of like, what? People, but don't they already have the ability to do this? iFixit did a great job of illustrating why just giving you the right to do it is not enough, because they can counteract everything.
Yeah.
Being the manufacturers. So stay tuned for that tomorrow. In the meantime, Joe Biden, who last week, if you remember, kind of spearheaded this whole right to repair thing.
Like, what? You can't repair tractors?
He came down with that fiat diktat and was like, yes, we must have it. And he has been doing a lot of big moves that are anti-big tech. Right to repair is definitely one of them. This one is probably even bigger.
Biden names tech foe Jonathan Kanter as DOJ antitrust chief. And so this isn't the first time that this individual has gone toe-to-toe with big giants. He actually comes from a law firm that's fought the big tech firms. And, I just want to take a second to say that, like, the language that we're using, like anti-big technology, anti-whatever.
Tech foe.
I think that there's kind of a negative connotation there that really shouldn't be, because the behavior that we're seeing in things like, can I repair my laptop is really insidious. It is odious. So we don't need to describe it. It's like, oh, we're going in a Luddite direction with anti-technology. And it's like, no.
Yeah, well,
reasonable things.
I think if you get right down to it, those companies are also anti-tech by the traditional definition of it.
Yeah.
But we know them as big tech.
Yeah.
The fangs. That's who they are. And Biden also, so far, his presidency has not been the disaster that some people predicted it has, but his public speaking certainly has.
Yeah.
He's not good at it. I think there's just some dementia going on, and he's constantly having to walk them back.
CNBC has the headline that Facebook isn't killing people. Biden sort of walks back the attack over vaccine lies. So we reported on this last week, and some reporter caught him as he was walking to the helicopter or whatever. It was like, what do you think about all the lies on Facebook? And he's like, they're killing people when they don't take it down. And so he's like, well, it's the people on the platform. It's not the platform. The platform's actually trying to, do the right thing, I guess.
I don't know that they are.
Yeah, I don't think they actually care that much as long as people are using the platform.
Well, I think they care because of those kinds of statements.
The platform at this point, doesn't it basically have a mind of its own? It's like we built a wheat thresher that hungers for the blood of young children. And it's like, oh, crap, we didn't mean to build a wheat thresher that hungers for the blood of young children. Yeah, we're going to put a stop to that. It's like, well, the wheat thresher's still operating. And it's like, well, we have to be in business. It's like, but doesn't it demand the blood of young children in order to survive? And it's like, yes, it does. It's like, where is it getting its fuel then? Because the algorithm demands a blood sacrifice. So how,
But there's also those emails from Zuckerberg that we dug up that said, how to cull children.
So, it's kind of a survival thing. It's like they might want to do the right thing, but then they would cease to exist.
Government. So speaking of government, we have this little island that we have had a past relationship with that is fraught with drama. And it seems like that is not going to change because now things are getting a little crazy down there. The people are a little riled up. So what do? Well, you turn off the internet, obviously. They've already done that. That's number 1 in the playbook. But now they're down to number like 8 or 9.
The FCC is investigating whether the Cuban government is jamming ham radio or not. And the answer is yes.
Wow.
It is definitely jamming ham radio.
Some old school technology news this week.
Being used by the, what's the word that describes the people who've moved away from the country? Diaspora. Being used by the diaspora of Cuba who are living in places like Miami to communicate with their loved ones because they're so close. They can easily do that.
Yeah, they had somebody in the article who's like, I've been in regular communication every week, for years. And they've gone dark, which is troubling.
And that guy was a bit of an expert in the ham band. And he was pointing out, he was like, hey, he had a visualizer. And he was like, look, this is the interference right here. Here's last Monday. That wasn't there. And he was recording it, You need those people sometimes. I'm sure it's really annoying, but sometimes we need those people.
Pretty sure that if the apocalypse happens, we're going to be saved by the ham radio people. So
there's a ham club here in our town. Did you know that?
Yeah.
They meet at the park sometimes.
Yeah.
What baud modem connection do you think we could get over ham radio?
I did the packet radio thing way back in the day, and it was very not fast. We would be back to it wouldn't be the internet. It would be back to the days of Gopher. But that's something. I mean, in the absence of infrastructure, having a text-only Wikipedia, that's something.
Imagine you're chatting up a girl on the ham band. You need to get a picture of her, so you start it, and then the next morning you can see the picture. Well, I know that you use the Surface Book, and you have gone ahead and added the face unlock.
Yep.
Which I find to be terrifying.
Yeah.
But it seems to, it's convenient, obviously.
Yeah.
Especially if you're unlocking a lot, and on tablets you are. But have you thought about this scenario?
Judge forces U.S. Capitol rioter to unlock laptop seized by the FBI. The headline is a little sensationalist. It was face unlock, and they just hauled him before the laptop in court in order to unlock it because they're pretty sure that there's a video recording of this person storming the Capitol or whatever on the laptop. They got a warrant for it.
Because he was wearing this camera.
Yeah.
And they assumed that had to be storing to the laptop. And if it was, then that would be a full record of the day. So we'll see. Get some hot video. Some live leak video off those cameras.
What if one of those cameras shows one of the more squirrely politicians inviting that person into the Capitol?
Didn't we already have video of that?
I don't think wasn't it supposed to be the security that did that, not the politicians?
No, there were politicians that were giving tours to the people.
Like the day before,
before that were like, now be sure not to storm this room because I was like, wait.
So-and-so works in here, yeah.
I don't know.
Well, Section 230. The Republicans hate Section 230. I suppose it was spearheaded by Trump because he was so angry that he couldn't make them do what he wanted. A lot of other people jumped on that bandwagon. So it is almost universally understood. Democrats love 230. Republicans hate 230. But wait, it might not be a partisan issue. It might be completely self-serving.
TechCrunch reports that there's a Democratic bill that would suspend Section 230 protections when social networks boost anti-vax conspiracies. Okay. But again, it hungers for the blood of children. It's not choosing pro or anti, whatever. It's choosing the thing that
people are engaging with.
Yeah. It's, again, the blood of children problem.
But, they are saying that it has a very narrow scope and it will only be used in these exact situations. But the wording of it, yeah. And for some reason, they don't understand, well, maybe they do understand and they don't care, and this has been the goal all along, but the other team is going to use it as soon as it exists.
Would we as a group, just something to ponder and engage, would we as a group be okay with outlawing algorithmic boosting or suppression of content?
I don't think it does enough because you can still put people in there.
Oh yeah, that's true. So they can choose the winners.
And when it happens,
that's even more terrifying.
And somebody calls them on it, and they'll be like, "No, that was Fred. Fred did that." And Fred's job is to say, "Yes, I did that."
Well, Fred is going to prison.
Listen, we paid him a lot. We paid his family a lot.
There probably would be people that would do that. It's like, yeah, I'll totally volunteer to go to jail for 10 years if you'll take care of my family and my kids.
That was in a TV show. I think maybe it was The Wire where they did that. And one guy admitted to 40 murders. I was like, yeah, I did that. Yep. Those are all me.
That's me, murdering people up and down the streets.
I don't know.
And he knew the details because the people that really killed him gave him the details before. Well, the nuclear football that is, if you're an international viewer, that's probably really confusing for you. Because, no, we don't kick the nuclear football.
It's 46 pounds.
We carry it like an American football. But that's where the nuclear codes are. And if it ever goes down with, Russia or Cuba, like it almost did that one time, or China or North Korea or whoever.
Literally anyone.
The article said it also had really important papers for state in there. And I was just having fun imagining, like, what could that be? It's probably nudes of Kim Jong. That's one.
I think it's the succession.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because you have to determine who now makes the decision. But there has always been some question, how secure is it? And the answer maybe is not great.
Pentagon watchdog to review nuclear football safety procedures after the January 6th incident. This points out how, randos came within 100 feet of the nuclear football, which they wouldn't have been able to launch nuclear weapons. There's at least protections enough in place for that. However, the aforementioned, Kim Jong nudes or other important
State secrets,
paperwork, was in the briefcase, which definitely could be sold to intelligence agents.
Oh, you could sell the football too. I mean, even if they can't use it right now, they can definitely get
Level 1
secrets
set
from
piece. It's like, what's that? Oh, that's the nuclear football from. I was like, what?
How? Okay, well, maybe you're not. Here's a marketing question, right? Do you love or hate the fact that your brand bag, is the football?
You probably love it, right? Because it's like, look how secure our bags are.
Yeah, but it could be also you're destroying a continent.
Yeah, it's like the
But that's
ad,
a small chance, right? Like,
the ad for Targus in 2150 is, we destroyed the South China Sea.
Whether it's raising a continent or raising your children. Samsonite. And the Cuban situation
Well, it's not really Cuba. This is in Italy.
But it is called the Havana syndrome because it
that's true.
started in Cuba. So we had those mystery diplomats who got a little bit sick.
A lot sick. Brain damage.
the
in some
mystery hum.
And when they looked at their brains, it was brain damage without the damage. There was no event that they could find. There was no fractures or stress on the skull or the skin or anything. It's just inside the brain. How did they do it? Well, we still don't know.
CIA director says he is escalating efforts to solve the Havana syndrome mystery. They've doubled the team size, tripled the team size. There's a lot of medical doctors on it. Best guess right now is it's some kind of microwave signal. It's probably spies. It's probably not something else. But we don't know.
Yeah, they haven't set aside that it might be a directed attack. And one of the big theories is it's one of those microwave guns. But we might get some new clues because it started again, but not in the same place.
Yeah, it's Vienna is the new Havana syndrome hotspot. Roughly 24 people and possible new cases have been reported by U.S. spies and diplomats in the Austrian capital, more than any other city except Havana itself.
That's bizarre.
Dark times. If we figure out that a nation state's responsible for this,
But Germany or Austria?
yeah, I don't know.
Weird. Austria is our ally, supposedly.
What if it's some sort of natural phenomena that no one realized was happening?
I was thinking that it's like, what if it's like cosmic rays? Or
Yeah.
What does Cuba and Austria have in common geographically that would...
Maybe that's just the places it's been detected first, but maybe it happens everywhere.
Is it happening anywhere there aren't U.S. spies? That's a big indicator.
Are there any places that don't have U.S. spies? Let's be
That's
honest.
an excellent point, yeah. Well, maybe North Korea. How many spies do you think we got in North Korea?
Probably at least a few.
It's a harrowing job, don't you
Yeah.
think? Well, you know what's not a harrowing job? Taking money from lobbyists because you're in the bureaucracy. And we've talked a lot about how much of a return on investment you get with lobbying dollars. You can spend $100,000 and get $1 billion contract moved your way. I mean, that is, wow. That is big returns. And previous years, this was not this big a number. They have really stepped this up. And you can imagine if you get that rate of return, what they're getting for this.
Report finds that big telecom spends $320,000 on lobbying every day. Telecom giants spend $234 million during the 116th Congress to ensure that U.S. broadband remains spotty, crappy, and expensive. Just watch old episodes of the Level 1 News talking about all the stuff that Ajit Pai did. That's what that kind of money buys you.
Yeah. And
every time I see that, I just think that would pay off my house and then some.
I don't think he's that rich a man. Or maybe he's hiding some of it. But it's crazy how much they get for that little amount of money.
Yeah. Well, $230 million is not.
But I mean individually to
yeah.
each politician.
Yeah.
Each politician does not get a huge chunk of that.
Yeah.
And a lot of that isn't just like handing people envelopes. A lot of that is all the, machinery around it. You got to get them in a room. You got to pay for their dinner. You got to take them to some beautiful hotel somewhere. Probably some prostitutes getting hired.
Sometimes it's not even like the politician gets money. It's, hey, we're going to loan you a car and take you to a restaurant. And like Jeeves is going to pick you up and do everything that you need for a week. And it's like, that costs money.
It's the Ask Jeeves.
Yeah.
It's that guy.
He's very old now.
The animated butler.
It's sad. And what can we do? How can we free ourselves from these horrible ISPs? They've got our government all tied up. They're in control of everything. How do we stop them? Maybe this is the answer.
Virginia is going to use $700 million in a federal grant, to roll out statewide broadband. It's assessing the funding from the American Rescue Plan, the aptly named American Rescue Plan. Virginia got screwed hard by the incumbent ISPs. They took a lot of tax dollars, and there's no infrastructure to speak of. How little infrastructure is there? Well, there's so little infrastructure, it makes sense for billionaires to launch enormous constellations of satellites to provide internet access. That's how insane we are.
So they claim they're going to run all new stuff with that $700 million, and we've heard those promises in the past, haven't we? Although this is not the same group of people making the promises.
Yeah.
So maybe.
Maybe it'll be better. Hopefully it's better.
I fully expect the incumbent broadband providers to file a lawsuit to say that this is anti-competitive. But the reason, like the way that they're getting around that mechanically, is that this is fiber optic service, and the state correctly realizes that it is, for all intents and purposes, an infinite amount of bandwidth when you run the fiber optic cables, because you just change the electronics you put at either end. So the incumbent ISPs are more than welcome to use that infrastructure for their service. Their service can only improve.
They should charge them for that server, and that should go back into the coffers.
Funding thing, yeah. It's like, it actually cost us $1,000 to wire up the town of whatever. You're going to have to pay that over the course of a year or 5 years or whatever. I'd be fine with that.
Like a toll road. But of course, if we did that, they would charge us for the toll, not the ISPs for the toll.
Yeah.
And then the ISPs would give us a service charge. Just because they can.
It's like, aren't we both paying for the toll?
And the toll road would never actually go away. Though I think, like, the Bluegrass Parkway, it used to be a toll road, right?
Mountain Parkway was as well.
Yeah.
We have a lot of parkways that used to be tolls.
But I think in a lot of other states, that's not the case. Like, they put that toll road up and it never goes away.
Yeah. Well, I think they do creative accounting like Hollywood.
Yeah.
They make sure it's never paid off, which is, should probably be the death sentence. But
The ISPs would probably do the exact same thing.
I think they would do way worse.
Yeah.
There would be a team that was just tasked with figuring out how to make that worse. And another big company that people really don't love, except Krista.
Play Overwatch.
Even when they were destroying Hong Kong, she supported them. And it was wrong. It was wrong what she did.
California sues gaming giant Activision Blizzard over unequal pay and sexual harassment. The NPR headline here is really tame when you read into
Yes.
this.
Oh my gosh.
So this was during the big Me Too era. And I'm surprised we haven't heard about it till now.
They drove one of the female developers to suicide, apparently. That's one of the allegations in the lawsuit, which is just utterly bananas.
But
the more details that emerge as you read that lawsuit, it's just like, ugh.
It seems really unbelievable, but then you think about everything else that Activision has done in the past.
Yeah.
And you think, well, no, yeah, I believe this.
Well, and Riot Games had the same problem. Like, it seems like it's just rampant everywhere, which is horrific.
I can totally see that because, video game programming is high skill. It is a difficult thing to do, to make them, especially these AAA games.
High skill and high stress.
And, it's going to be largely dominated by males. And they are probably not going to have a lot of experience working with females.
One of the things they also talked about was like, they would, what was the word for it? It was basically like the Holy Sunny gag where they talk about like night crawlers, but they would do that under women's desks. And they would like crawl under and like grope them and stuff.
You're
It's like,
talking
what the
about
fuck?
what is it? They want to play the worm game or play night crawlers?
Night crawlers, yeah. But it was happening in an office environment. What the fuck are you doing, Blizzard?
Yeah.
How did that get condoned by anybody?
I'm currently watching Mad Men, and I couldn't help but.
Yeah,
was like,
I mean,
oh,
it hasn't
wait.
changed.
But that was a long time ago.
And it hasn't changed.
There's never been a better time in history to be an independent. The whole work from home collective group together. You don't need to work for the AAA studios.
Yeah.
Make an indie roguelike.
I was just thinking that.
That's pretty much all we've been obsessed with if you watch us on Twitch.
Luck be a landlord.
I saw you playing that the other night.
They take out everything else, and it's just, okay, here, it's just RNG and try to get synergy. It's crack. It's pure crack. Just every turn, just click this button, and we will give you endorphins, and you make choices.
I was listening to, I was playing a different game, but I was listening to your stream in the background, and I would hear like, oh, I can't get that cat. That cat's garbage. And I didn't know like any of the context of what was happening.
One guy popped in while I was streaming, and he was like, who the hell are you, and how do you have 54 viewers in this game?
Yeah, I saw that. He was like, no one plays this. So I checked the listing, and I think like the next highest stream was like 3 viewers.
But it's fun. I like it. Swatting. We've not seen quite as many swatting stories. Do you think that's because there's less swatting stories, or they just don't care anymore?
I think they just don't care anymore.
But we certainly had the one where the guy got killed, and that big story. I wonder if how many years did they give that kid? Do you think he's out yet? That would be disgusting.
It was like 10 or 15 years.
Oh, wow.
Okay, that's good. But here's one that is at least as bad, I would say. And this was 5 years, and that's nonsense.
Yeah.
5 years?
An 18-year-old Tennessee man who helped set in motion a fraudulent distress call that led to the death of a 60-year-old grandfather in 2020 was sentenced to 60 months in prison today. So at first I thought this was maybe a little harsh, but then I read like what he actually did, and it was like, okay, maybe not. Because the police didn't shoot him or anything, but they were wanting him to come outside and come through his fence, but he was fiddling with like the fence latch, and I guess the police were getting impatient. And so, like, they were doing the police thing, and he had a heart attack, and they took him to the hospital, and he died.
Which is weird, because when SWAT teams show up, they're always so considerate
And
of
polite.
the people.
Yeah. They don't shove a gun in your face and scream at you.
I haven't seen like 20 different YouTube videos of people just getting shot for moving their hand an inch.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I'd be so concerned. These guys were looking for Twitter and Instagram usernames that they thought were valuable. So like they point out one woman was just a very early Instagram adopter, and she got a 2-letter name.
Yeah.
And these guys were like, I want that. If you don't give it to me, I'm going to dox you. And she was like, I'm not doing that. Well, guess what? It just kept escalating till they get to the swatting.
Yeah. And that's what happened with this guy, too. This guy was actually a programmer who was retired. He actually had done a few things noteworthy.
And he had a really at Tennessee. He had at Tennessee on Twitter.
Wow.
Yeah.
I bet the government of Tennessee was real pissed when they saw that.
Well, you think they're trying to get it?
They're like, oh, we want that account.
How long do we need to wait before this doesn't look bad? Bitcoin. It is, when it began, it was touted as being untraceable. We have learned that that is not true. In fact, it is infinitely traceable if you give the people enough time. But the EU wants more.
EU plans to make Bitcoin transfers more traceable by using rule of law. Now, I read this article, but I must admit I had trouble concentrating because there was a voice in the back of my head that was screaming like, what about HSBC? What about HSBC? Because, you would think that the big banks would, not be laundering money for drug cartels, but that's not actually the case in the EU.
Well, they don't want the competition,
Yeah.
obviously. So yeah, they're saying that if you have an exchange that hosts wallets and you're not doing your own wallet at home, your own hardware wallet, then every transaction has to record the recipient and their address and the sender and their address, who they actually are.
So like Coinbase and PayPal, when they handle crypto, they have to know who you are, which is kind of like regular bank transactions in excess of $10,000. Again, unless you're a drug cartel.
Fine print. Also, I had to explain Bitcoin to my mom yesterday, which was weird.
Do you feel like you came away from that with her understanding it?
Not really, because she was like, well, she's like, it's just fake currency. Like, it's probably not worth that much. And then I pulled up the current value, which was like 34,000 USD. And she was like, what? And then she was like, do you have Bitcoin? I was like, God, I wish. But no, I don't have any Bitcoin.
I tried to explain NFTs to my parents one time, and there was just like a small, uncomfortable silence, and they changed the subject.
They're like, I don't.
Yeah, we're not interested in that. This one, we need a little bit of background here because we have not yet talked about the big NSO stuff yet, right?
Right, we haven't. They've come up before on this program, but there's some security news. And
this is a little bit of fallout from that. We'll get to this first because this is the government section. This is from the NSO thing.
France is investigating reports that Morocco had President Macron's phone hacked. So when you're getting reports that Morocco, plucky little Morocco, can have the president of France's phone hacked, we've gone beyond the pale.
You know what's beautiful about this is, and again, we'll talk more about this later, but when they pushed NSO on this thing, they were like, look, we only sell to nation states, and only if the targets they tell us they're going to go after are terrorists and criminals. So we can extrapolate. Macron must be a terrorist and or a criminal.
At least in Morocco.
Turns out he just did some stuff politically that the Moroccan leaders might not care for. They wanted some more details on that. Yeah. But that kind of thing would never happen, right? We don't live in a world where that kind of stuff is going to go on. And another thing that I've been assured no less than 1,000 times in the last 2 years would never happen are vaccine passports.
Guardian reports that Italy is imposing green pass restrictions on unvaccinated people. The government seeks to drive up vaccination rate amid resurgence in things. And it's like, let's have this on your passport, kind of, but not really.
So you want to go to a bar, restaurant, venue for like a concert or a sporting event or something like that. And what else? There's a couple other things.
Basically anything where you're out in public, sounds like.
The article implies that it's going to happen for mass transit too, but that stopped short of that.
Wouldn't surprise me. You have to have this. Now, there is a paper version, and it's not necessarily just the vaccine. You can also prove that you've been recently tested or recently contracted it and got over it for now. But we'll see. I mean, in terms of slippery slope, anybody that argues that that's not what this is at this point, you can't take them seriously. Something new every week. There's been a lot of hacking, and specifically the Microsoft Exchange hack was definitely one of the big ones, although we've already moved past it in terms of the hacking timeline. That's how many hacks are going back and forth here. And everybody kind of had an idea of where it came from, but now we have an official accusation.
The White House formally blames China's Ministry of State Security for the Microsoft Exchange hack. So I want to say, I was trying to go back and look at it. I was thinking that all the articles at the time were pointing toward Russia. Mm-hmm. And it was like, oh, this looks like a Russian thing. It's like, oh, there's some remnants of Russia. And it's like, no, this is China.
Yeah, they found some code, I think, with
Russian
what they claimed was the smoking gun.
Yeah. So
I don't think they would ever report that without having hard facts, though.
That's probably true.
Yeah. Must have been both of them, right?
It's almost like they both hate us.
China immediately replied and said, no, not us, you. Which is probably also true.
Once again, the Spider-Man meme of diplomacy.
Yeah. We will talk more about that in the security section. But yeah, we've got an article about China's formal response to that, which was, no, this is you. You did this.
And China is definitely heating up their anti-U.S. dogma, and they're putting some weight behind it. They are tired of their big tech companies having any involvement with the U.S.
China weighs unprecedented penalty for Didi after a U.S. IPO. So Didi is the ride-hailing, ride-sharing service that's popular in some places in the world. And they went ahead with a U.S. IPO because things were getting kind of weird in China. It actually went kind of okay for them, all things considered. But China is going to really crack down on them. They're going to probably install new leadership in the company.
So China has this weird thing where it's like you're not technically allowed to list in the U.S., but everybody does it. And Didi apparently went to the regulators and they were like, yep, we're going to do this. And the regulators were like, well, we're not saying no, but we have some serious concerns about this, this, and this. And a lot of it had to do with the data aggregation, keeping it in the country and stuff like that. And when a communist regime tells you we're not sure,
that means no.
That means if you do this, we will kill you. And they did it anyway.
It's like when you ask your mom if you can go to a sleepover, and she's like, oh, I'm not sure. That means no.
Ask your father. So we don't know yet what will happen to Didi, but we are pretty sure it's going to be catastrophic.
Yeah.
I wouldn't invest. China has also targeted some other online companies and platforms, and considering the state we're in, in terms of socialization, this seems very disruptive.
China bans off-campus tutoring and education overhaul that sets off market rout among dozens of listed edtech platforms. That is an awkward headline.
Yeah, it is.
Basically, if you run a tutoring center, you can't operate outside of regular hours or on the weekend. And at first I was thinking, are they saying that kids are not going to get tutoring, after school hours? I guess that's good for kids, but then you read into it and it's like, that's not exactly what's going on.
But they banned them from playing video games during those times.
Yeah. So
well, what do you want them to do? Just
crime.
Worship the party? So yeah, a lot of big companies, entire business models will just be rended apart by this.
There's another part of this that also suggests that students' data was not aggregated properly, like the other article. And it's like, are they worried about student data aggregation here as well?
Well, I mean, that's children, right? So that's a valid concern. And that was one of the things about Didi is they're saying, hey, this data, I bet a lot of it is like, hey, you've got this data, we need to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that also bled over into our next story.
Yeah, more companies, and this is the same thing, although these are foreign companies, and I think they're going to take an even bigger hit.
Beijing calls out Amazon, ByteDance, which we'll talk specifically about in another article, NetEase, and more for violating users' rights in the latest crackdown. They named 145 apps, and they have until July 26th to take corrective measures or face punishment, the Ministry of Information Technology said on Monday. So this is, you have to store Chinese citizens' data on Chinese servers, presumably where we can get at it, and you have to follow these rules, that rules, and the other stuff. Even ByteDance was sucked up in this.
I was about to say, isn't ByteDance a Chinese company?
Basically, yeah.
But TikTok, didn't they have to move that to America to get past the Trump thing?
It's still kind of like that's still a mess.
Yeah. So, it's the pretty girl that both teams are trying to get. It's like, no, come to us. We love you. So, Amazon responded, as you can expect. The way everybody responds when China does this kind of thing is like, oh, we're happy to work with China. We love them. Please let us stay.
They have a huge market of consumers,
Yeah.
please. We want access to them.
And here we have China's response to Mr. Biden.
The NBC News headline is China rejects hacking charges and accuses U.S. of cyber spying. China is the leader in cyber warfare research along with the United States and Russia, but Beijing denies accusations that Chinese hackers steal trade secrets and technology. This is a very weirdly worded rejection in some respects, but they basically said, no, this is not a state-sponsored thing, the exchange thing, although they might have been, looking for something. They didn't really, there's a couple of things where they were kind of fuzzy on the details, or fuzzy on the denial.
Now, on one hand, I say the response to that has to be just like it was with Russia. It's like, okay, fine. It's not state-sponsored, but you better do something about it.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be a state problem. But I don't know if they have the balls to step to China like that. And there is the hypocrisy to consider.
Yeah.
There's always the hypocrisy to consider. Although they never do they?
It seems like if we want to stand up to China, we'd have to move a lot of production back to the U.S. Otherwise, we're kind of screwed.
Which would be a good thing overall.
Yeah, it would be a good thing.
Yeah. Well, it's not all bad news out of China. They did do something really incredible.
China unveils the fastest ground vehicle in the world capable of traveling over 370 miles per hour. This is a train that goes, between Hong Kong and somewhere?
It's Beijing and somewhere else.
Beijing and Shenzhen, maybe? No, Beijing to Shanghai.
There you go, yeah.
There we go, yeah. 2.5 hours.
Wow.
That's pretty quick.
Now, at 370 miles per hour, I assume there is like an air brake type of thing, like a positive brake that if in catastrophic failure will pop. But at 370 miles an hour, wouldn't stuff just melt when it touched?
Yeah, it was probably a one-time use break. It's like the saw stop. You ever see them stick a hot dog into a table saw? It's probably like that.
But would that, on a bit of a bend, would that keep you from derailing at 370?
You might still die.
A lot of people might still die. So I don't know. It's probably safer overall, though. Definitely incredible. We're building some bullet trains here, but we're not going anywhere near 370.
We're getting to like 125 miles an hour. It's so stuff.
Is that a regulation thing, or are we just...
We're scared to death that it's not going to be safe.
Yeah, China doesn't care.
Or I was going to say the car industry has such a vice grip on everything here. Maybe that's like they're lobbying against it.
Yeah. There's that amazing story about how Henry Ford just rebuilt Detroit to destroy mass transit.
Yeah.
It's so incredible that he got away with that. And this story, I think, I put this last because I think the culmination of if you're Didi or any of those other companies that you're sitting there and you're like, why now? Why all of a sudden? What do I need to do to get out from under this? I think this is your answer.
Bloomberg reports that China tech billionaires are ramping up donations as Beijing is cracking down. So the article in Bloomberg here implies that the billionaires and the people that have these companies are trying to show the party that this is a force for good. It's a positive force. And so how do you do that? It's like when you have scandalous allegations, you start ramping up donations. You give to schools and orphans and art projects and that kind of thing.
And there's some people have already pointed out ties between specific Communist Party members who are, a big part of these crackdowns and these organizations that are getting flooded with money. So it's their pet projects in some cases. And I'm sure that there's nothing being kicked back.
No, never.
To those guys.
I know you're not a bad guy because you helped all my orphans. Thank you. It's like, okay.
All my orphans.
Well, I guess it's a good
Worst
thing.
soap opera.
I don't know if overall it's good, but I'm sure there's a lot of corruption still nestled away and all of that. And when it comes to corruption, I think maybe this is the thing I'm most terrified of for the future. And that is central bank digital currencies. Because, oh boy, if you make them mad once we have this, they will just turn you off.
India considering phased rollout of central bank digital currency. So remember, India banned digital currency, and then they started seizing things, and things got weird, and things are already weird in China with the thing, and then other countries are running steamrollers over mining equipment. And so this is taking away any shred of anonymity that you might have from fiat currency and making it all digital. And yeah, there's a lot of potential for terribleness.
And fully under government control. And let's remember, this is the Modi leadership. Remember what they did with the biometric database?
Yeah, that turned out very badly.
Remember how well that worked?
That was not secured at all.
Same team. Going to be putting this one together.
Great.
Yeah. We've got just a touch of social media, just a hint of social media.
2 stories this week.
And again, I was when this first came out, I was like, "Oh, we should do that." And then as we learned more and more, I was like, "We shouldn't do that."
TechCrunch reports the Clubhouse is now out of beta and open to everyone. Clubhouse,
Is anyone excited about this?
They point out that they still have a lot of users, but it has tapered. They got one big spike in the beginning. Remember when Musk made it popular? And then when it opened up for Android, they had another spike. But now they're just kind of, simmering.
Seems like you could do the same thing on Discord a little more targetedly and effectively.
I don't really get the appeal, but...
Yeah, well, we've never used it. So also, Krista, they redesigned. They were just going to use the wave emoji, but now this is the official logo. What do you think about it?
It feels a little disconnected from the text. It needs to be closer. Otherwise, it's fine. I'm surprised they didn't go with like a house of some sort.
But also, how about the fact that that's a wave and this is purely audio?
Yeah, that's also strange.
How much do you think it would cost to engage the Chinese exchange team to break in and change their logo to have one extra finger? How long do you think it would be before they noticed?
It's going to cost one massive donation to those orphans.
That would be amazing. It's like, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna get,
They could have done like a house with like headphones around it. There's better options. I mean, it's fine, but
Yeah. Well, we've talked a lot about the YouTube algorithm, and it's impressive, but at times it is terrible in hilarious ways.
and repetitive.
And requires the blood of children.
And it does, destroy lives. It allows people to create a living and then strips that away from them arbitrarily. So you can make that argument about it. But apparently, there's an even more capricious and powerful algorithm out there now.
How TikTok sees inside your brain. So you can read this and have a little bit of a reflection on. It's not that complicated how the endorphin button works in your brain, and this thing exploits it.
My understanding, I don't have TikTok, but I have a friend who does, and he said you basically just scroll through it. Like, it's just a constant feed. It's not like YouTube where you see like a big bunch of thumbnails. You just constantly scroll.
And because of that format, the main thing that they look at is when you stop scrolling. Mm-hmm. When you stop scrolling, a timer starts. And they base what you stop to look at, they base your feed on what you've stopped to look at. And apparently it's very good at finding more things that will stop you. So
I'm too old for TikTok. Too old.
I don't know. I've never used it.
Hey, nobody got that kind of attention span.
I don't mind like looking at TikToks that get reposted else somewhere.
The opposite of an attention span.
Yeah.
Do you think someday we'll get to the point where we don't have how long is the maximum TikTok?
A minute and a half, I think.
Yeah, they're really short. It's like Vine. It's a new version of Vine.
Well, TikTok would say Vine is a version of TikTok.
Well, I broke into the sparkling ice caffeine.
I feel like we've seen it before.
We did. We've seen this before. This is again, the balls in the Hank's soda came to us thanks of Uber Archangel on Discord. And so more is on the way. So we'll probably have that for next week. But yeah, I'm just making my way through the leftovers, and I really like this. This is very refreshing. This is good stuff.
Do you think Uber Archangel drives an Uber, or is it just a really big Archangel?
I like the idea of the driver personally.
If you really want to find out, you could message him on Discord.
A 600-pound angel.
Does the
Dr. Proctor.
Does Uber Angel do they turn around and be like, Jesus is my co-pilot? And they give you like a thumbs up?
No, they speak German.
I love the death of Flash. I'm totally wearing that to the next developer thing that I go to.
Oh, Chris, did show off your your shirt today.
I don't know if you can see it
The
very
mic's
well.
in front of it. Yeah, stand up a little bit there.
That's rude.
It's Roo Dog. My mom also very excited about the Roo Dog t-shirt.
And if you hate Roo, we've also got the cat version. Which
If you're a subscriber of L1 Cats,
didn't realize we were making.
look how happy they are in that picture.
Crouton's not happy in that picture. I just woke him up to take
That's
the
why I
picture.
like it. The other image I was thinking about using for your cat mug was going to be the one where they're synchronized licking their crotches.
butts.
Yeah.
It's really hard to tell what's going on in that picture, though.
Yeah.
Because the white floor, you really have to take a minute. I don't know if that would translate well to a t-shirt.
Yeah, I think that's why I opted against it. But anyway, we've got a bunch of new stuff in the store. If you're into that kind of thing, check it out. Check out the forum. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Bye.
See you tomorrow.
Hello. Welcome to the Level 1 News. Today we are doing business, robot and science. And was that it? Robot and science? Just robot and science. That's just one
Robot
section.
space.
Space, that's right. I forgot we were renaming that section.
Is it going to be billionaires in space?
I think it's fair to put robot and space together because when will we ever take another space mission that's not mostly robotic?
Well, we had one this week that was not robotic. Though that could be argued.
No, that was totally automated. You think Bezos was
No,
up there pushing
I'm saying,
buttons?
but there were humans in it. Was
No,
my
but
point.
the ship itself,
The ship
I would
itself,
call
yeah.
a robot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty much automated. What happens to that thing? Some of it they're running from the ground,
Yeah.
but the guys in the can, they're just money,
They're ornamental.
just dollar signs sitting in those seats. But we're not talking about that yet. Now let's talk about red versus blue. Now you got to take this with a grain of salt because no one's seen it for real. I think actually a couple of people have tested it, but all we have are roughly rumors. But Blue says they're back in the lead.
Leaked i9 at 12900K benchmark show gains over the Ryzen 5950X. A new leak for Intel's upcoming Adler Lake. Alder Lake?
Alder.
Alder Lake. Yeah, I knew that. I've heard that before. Why am I an idiot? A new leak. Now, what's weird about this leak is in China, apparently, you can buy these processors and motherboards to go with them on the black market. So what does that mean? Does that mean this is a deliberate leak, more or less? Is this orchestrated? I don't know what to believe
I would
anymore.
think it's deliberate, but
Guerrilla marketing. That's what I would call that.
So,
But the gains are supposedly pretty, what was it, like 18 and 20-some% multi-core versus single-core?
yeah.
Real big gains. So I'm sure that will certainly not drive a hype train for...
off a cliff.
And we don't know what the wattage is. And it's like, because if it's a 100-watt processor versus, this thing operating at 200 watts, okay. But if it's, 100 watts versus like 125 watts, that's pretty good.
I don't think anybody cares. I think they only care about that.
the
last
top line number?
Yeah. That's the only one that matters. If you have to run a generator to run this thing in your house, nobody cares. Just go ahead.
Does your house only have 15 amp circuits and not 20 amp circuits? I'm sorry. You're going to have to step down.
Well, we talked yesterday about the right to repair. Biden has weighed in. Everybody's saying we're going to do it. We're bringing in all these new people into the regulatory agencies that just hate the tech companies. And we need it. Sure, we need it. But I don't know if everybody really understands how bad it really is, which is why this gentleman is here to tell us.
The iFixit CEO names and shames tech giants for their right to repair obstruction. iFixit chief Kyle Wiens claims Apple, Samsung, and Microsoft are monopolizing the supply chain and designing products to prevent users from being able to easily repair them. He mentioned specifically there's a charging IC from Apple, and Apple requested the manufacturer make a tweak to it, and they have. And Apple also requested that the manufacturer not sell that tweaked version of the charging circuit to anybody except Apple, which makes it very difficult to repair because guess what? That's one of the things that dies in a pretty common way on Apple laptops. Same thing with Microsoft, same thing with Samsung.
It's one of those parts where if you do find a place to source it, good luck getting it through customs.
Yeah, because it's like, that's a counterfeit product.
Because Apple will go to them and say they could not have bought this.
You can definitely tell that the government has failed when, as a normal citizen, you look at this situation and you say, this is clearly abusing the rule of law to suppress repairability. Clearly.
But I don't think the average citizen is aware. I don't think they read that article.
Even if they were aware, politicians should be on top of this kind of thing. That's their job.
And all those companies too, they put out all those things about we're sustainable and we care about the planet. It's but you can only buy repair parts through us.
Yeah, Apple built a disassembly robot to be look, we can recover the things. It's but you're doing this.
Yeah.
Was it, I think it was Samsung where they started that documentation team for the right to repair.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing this. And then someone at Samsung found out and they buried it over the next 6 months.
Yeah.
And just never let it get off the ground.
Yeah.
They get the headline and then they crush it. So we'll see. Maybe Biden's new administration will save us from all of this.
Those CEOs are probably the planet's going to be uninhabitable in 10 years anyway. Let's just go out in a blaze of glory. And it's what? Wait, what?
No, they're planning to go space. We'll be going out in a blaze of glory.
What?
But that's the thing, right? I mean, if you look at the alarmist climate change stuff, if that's true, I'm not saying it is, but if it is, what solution is there other than mass depopulation?
Everyone's standard of living also has to go down.
Store.level1.
Text.
That won't work.
Telecom.
You'll have revolution. People in the streets because you won't let them go to the bar. They know that cannot happen. So, I mean, I'm not on board with letting them decide, but I do kind of feel what else we're going to do? Yeah. Google has always rabidly protected the algorithm that returns search results. You're not allowed to know why you are given those search results, probably because they're doing terrible illegal things. But we've always been curious, and now maybe a crumb, maybe one crumb.
Google is starting to tell you how it found search results for you. This is based on your search the other day for this other thing, or this is based on your advertising profile. This is based on, we think that you're more inclined to do technical things than something else. We found it on some rando's blog that you follow. Those kinds of things.
And presumably, you can try to undo. Be like, no, that's not me. Stop showing me that.
And then you give them more information about how to build more advertising profiles.
Yeah, basically you're sharpening your profile every time you do that. Although you could give them disinformation, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's the
We've
way to
talked
do it.
about that before.
But I mean, you could go through this system and explicitly give. Someone's building a bot right now, some hero, a disinformation
Browser
bot.
plugin.
Yeah. I didn't really experience much of this,
No.
but I did hear about it, and I guess because it was during the workday and I wasn't using any of these services at the time.
Banks, brokerages, PSN, and the Steam store went down in a massive internet outage. It was Akamai. Akamai had a DNS problem. They're an upstream CDN provider. When the CDN has problems, everybody has problems.
And the CDNs are overwhelmingly the most of the internet at this point.
Yeah.
So, sucks if you're dealing with it. It wasn't out for too long, though, was it? I can't remember.
No.
A few
exactly.
hours, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
But that's the second time that Akamai's had a major incident in just a few months. So I expect that heads will roll.
Well, it said just over an hour, but at just over an hour, the economic impact had to be insane.
A very large number of zeros is on that number.
I didn't have any clients email about that, which surprised me.
I had a few things that I had to deal with because of it, but it was
Well, we aren't. None of our stuff is hosted.
No,
through that,
but
right?
like sometimes you'll still get a client who's like, "This site won't load. What's wrong?" And it's like, "Well, I don't
all
know."
the pictures are missing. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, that comes from a different CDN.
Yeah.
So, the Brits, they lost ARM. They lost that other chip fab that they had. They lost another software company like 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Guys, hang on to these. This is not the time to be doing this.
Woo! Tencent is buying British game studio Sumo for $1.27 billion. Now, Tencent and Sumo have a business relationship that goes way back. Tencent already owned like 8%, 8.24%, something like that. Now they're going to buy a majority share in them, and that actually represents a 40% premium over their stock price. So they're going to continue to develop games and blah, blah, blah. They're going to do something with one of the studios in Toronto. Was it Tencent Toronto? They're working together on some kind of collaboration. So Tencent has definitely got plans for them. Probably now's not a good time to have, an international incident involving China.
Especially if you're a member of several treaties that will require you to take arms against them if they do certain things. Yeah, could get messy. Now, previously we talked about MasterCard getting into the whole like pay with crypto type of deal. And I couldn't help but wonder, how are you going to float all that crypto while you settle those transactions? That seems like a way to lose a ton of money. And clearly they have an answer.
CoinDesk reports that MasterCard is going to test USDC for payments as stablecoin scrutiny intensifies. MasterCard will use the USDC stablecoin as a bridge asset for cardholders who want to pay for goods using cryptocurrency.
So when you pay, instead of your crypto being converted to dollars, your crypto gets converted to US dollar coin, which is tethered to the dollar. Its fluctuation, or its value doesn't fluctuate. And then later it will settle into the actual crypto. So not as much risk.
For who?
For MasterCard.
Yes.
Yeah. And Jack Dorsey owns Twitter, obviously, but he also owns Square, the payment company, and he's looking to do the same kind of thing.
Square is going to create a new Bitcoin platform for financial services. CEO Jack Dorsey tweeted, the still to be named division's primary focus will be Bitcoin.
Now, yeah, that's just word salad, don't you think? What does this mean?
Payment services company Square will open a new business focused on creating an open developer platform to make it easier to provide non-custodial, decentralized financial services. So my interpretation of that is we're going to provide an API gateway that lets you handle money. So like how you have a PCI gateway right now for credit cards? That's what it reads to me like he wants to create. So like if I wanted to create, like a local Craigslist type app where people could, buy stuff through and, pay it and do that kind of stuff through crypto. I don't have to do the crypto part of it. I can just use his platform.
But you're assuming a lot there.
Yeah.
Based on that description, I don't think we
can't count on that.
We don't know exactly what it is.
Yeah. But that's to meet all of those buzzwords, it would have to be something like that. Like PayPal, but for crypto.
But it sounds like MasterCard's way ahead of him.
Yeah, it does.
He does have a lot of money, though, so I'm sure he'll be fine. And, sadly, I would say that this man is maybe the biggest public face of Bitcoin at this point.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is...
To the moon!
So he has definitely moved this market in the past with some of his comments, and I think maybe he's trying to walk some of that back at this point.
Tesla will most likely, quote unquote, start accepting Bitcoin as payments, says Musk. So they did. This is a restart. So they did, and they stopped. There's some volatility. They took some heat because it's like, well, they're participating in this thing that potentially has serious ecological damage because of all the energy that it requires, which could be going to something, quote unquote, more worthwhile.
And the risk to the shareholders.
Yeah.
Which is probably the main reason that they stopped.
It's not his money he's risking here. It's Tesla's money. So not everybody loves that. But...
buy low, sell high.
And he could easily do that if he took the payment and held it. Unless it never goes.
Well, that's what he said they were literally doing, and that was what some of their gains were last quarter or the quarter before.
Oh, yeah, they made a lot of money on They didn't make any money on cars. Made a lot of money on Bitcoin and government subsidies. But for all that I have to say bad about Tesla, and I have nothing but bad things to say about Tesla, this you have to applaud.
Yes.
They're doing it for self-serving reasons, I would say, but it is going to help everybody.
Tesla plans to open its charging network to other EVs later this year. You think this is going to be like bowling shoes where like you open a drawer and there's a bunch of different adapters depending on what kind of car you're, and they're just kind of crusty and covered with filthiness?
That would definitely lead to fires if we give people the autonomy of dealing with that. I don't know. That's a good question. But Biden set aside all that money to build out the electrical charging infrastructure. So how do you think this will affect that?
I think that they're going to
That might be why they're doing it.
Yeah, they're going to look at this and be like, oh, we can get some Biden subsidy money. Yeah, sign us up.
Yeah, that might be the whole reason. I wonder if you can do that retroactively.
Can Tesla charge on other EV stations, like just generic ones?
I don't. I think Teslas are really the only ones that are out there right now, aren't they?
There's some other cars that do electric as well.
But a lot of those you just charge at home, I think.
Yeah, you got to put a 200-volt circuit in your garage or whatever.
Well, there's a charging station not far from where we are, like right up the road, but it's not Tesla branded. It's just generic. So I wonder if you could charge a Tesla at it. Probably.
I'd say they have to, right? Because what percentage of EVs are Teslas right now? It's got to be huge, doesn't it? They probably got 40, 50% of the market.
I was amazed that we even had a charging station down the road from us, but it's there. It's just like 2 or 3 little things, but...
It's not a fast charging station.
No, it's not.
Well, that's the other good question. Do you think that as they improve the chargers, will it get to a point where they're like, well, we're not comfortable rolling out this speed of charging to the Volkswagens?
Yeah, it's like, you got to use this little unsettling adapter, so you're going to get the slow charge.
That's just horrible coil whine the entire time. Heats up the car and the inside.
I can't wait for the viral video of like playing Beethoven's Ninth on the coil whine while it's charging.
But one car company who will definitely move the needle in terms of charging stations and the state of EVs is one of the big luxury car brands.
Mercedes-Benz is going to go all electric by 2030.
Not really.
No.
If you read the comments, he was like, well, let's not worry about all electric. I think majority electric is what we're going here. Now, maybe we'll make some gasoline engines. Maybe we will.
The luxury sedans are all going to be electric, but then we're going to have an extra luxury sedan if we think we can charge more for it, and that one will still be gas.
But that is a tight timeline.
Yeah.
You think they'll actually, all these companies will hit these, or will it be like the ISPs?
No,
It'll
they
be
won't
like
give a
the
shit.
ISPs.
Yeah.
Well,
it's going to show up and be like, wait, the planet's still habitable in 2030? Oh, man.
We didn't plan for this. If you are one of the people who has the various streaming dongles, smart devices on your TV, or if your TV is just smart, I'm sure that you hate it.
Yes.
It is the worst thing that ever happened to television.
The new LG operating system is just pure garbage.
Oh, it's bad. And that probably drove a lot of sales of this device but even it was not immune.
NVIDIA Shield TV owners are pissed about the banner ads in Android TV. So a lot of Shield early adopters, a lot of Shield evangelists. It seemed like a good product. Well, they revamped things, and now there is a huge banner that advertises things that you may be interested in. NVIDIA doesn't want to call that an ad, but it will
Recommendation.
It will recommend you things that you're not subscribed to, like Disney Plus.
It will recommend things to you for companies who have given NVIDIA money.
That sounds like an ad.
Oh, I guess by the classical definition, maybe, but no, that's not what it is.
Is the ad just like on the home screen, or is it like everywhere?
Yeah, I think it's on the main menu. Yeah.
Couldn't we put something more useful there, like the media that I have?
And one of the things that the Shield owners apparently celebrated in the past was, look how fast and clean this UI is compared to every other smart TV platform.
And now not so much.
Sad days. Another company that is making a decision that you would never think possible, and it's sad. It's crushing, but they're probably going to do it because money.
LG might sell iPhones in its stores after quitting Android devices. Remember LG? They're not in the Android phone game anymore, but they could cut a deal with Apple to offer iPhones in their stores because, gosh darn it, everybody wants an iPhone.
Do we have pure LG branded stores in the U.S.?
No.
I've never seen that.
That's like a Korean thing, right?
Yes. And in Taiwan. They have them in Taiwan as well.
Interesting. And when it comes to Android and iPhone, traditionally there are a lot more Androids out there being sold than iPhones. But
iOS and Android activations now split evenly in the U.S., research shows. Activations of iOS and Android devices are now evenly split. So iOS is winning?
Doing better, I guess.
Well, it's only because Android has become so garbage. Like, I don't know what the Android team is thinking. They've lost sight of what it is they're trying to accomplish.
they're probably being pulled in a lot of different directions by the owner company.
That is very camel built by committee.
Yeah. The iPhone is just evil, but it's so well put together evil. It's slick, it's beautiful.
It has
responsive.
the whole Apple ecosystem where it's like, you just took a nibble of the apple. Why don't you just,
submit.
You got to eat the seeds too. Don't worry about cyanide. TV ratings. I don't watch TV. I don't think anybody here watches TV, right?
No,
I
not
mean,
really.
we'll watch TV shows in other formats, but have you looked at some of the like CNN? Have you looked at CNN's ratings? No one is watching.
Not only has my own cord been cut for years, but I managed to get Mom to cut her cord between a combination of over-the-air TV and, Netflix type things.
My parents won't give up the local news.
We can get it over
Yeah.
the air.
One time I called them and they seemed a little annoyed, and I was like, "What?" And they were like, "Well, it's 7:00." And I was like, "What?"
Were they watching the news or was it Wheel of Fortune?
I don't understand or maybe it was 6:00. I was like, "I don't understand what you're telling me." And they're like, "Well, it's the news." And I was like, "Well,
You can access the news 24/7 on the internet.
what they're telling you is 12 hours old." And yeah, I know you're going to give us comments about that, but
Yeah.
I was like, well, and I was like, all right, well, okay, I'll refrain from calling during this time in the future.
We're more of a commentary station.
But anyway, everything about that world is Nielsen. The Nielsen ratings, they have a death grip on that industry. And I think the industry's getting a little tired of it.
TV networks want to yank Nielsen accreditation because they say Nielsen is not tracking streaming services. Nielsen is not tracking what eyeballs are doing. It's not really effective anymore because the people that still haven't cut their cord are really starting to skew the metrics.
And Nielsen was like, no, we're not a dinosaur. We're totally relevant. We're going to change things.
The only way that Nielsen could continue doing what they do is to have an app on your phone that's always on recording, fingerprinting the media that your phone can hear.
Well, they actually already do that. So they've gone away from the journals. There's now a thing that you wear.
Yeah.
And it picks up those high frequency ultrasonic sounds, I guess. But even that, why do we need that when every platform now has analytics?
Yeah.
Right.
They can tell us exactly what people are watching if we trust them. But do we trust Nielsen?
I would love it if Nielsen could get stats on pirated media, because it's like, oh, we've made it, we've required you to sign up for Disney plus in order to see that. It's like, that's weird. Nielsen is reporting that we have 50 million viewers, and it's like, yeah, 50 million people are tired of your BS.
Now, they did that with maybe it was the last episode of Game of Thrones. Somebody figured out how many times it was stolen.
That's funny.
And I think they figured out that it probably wouldn't have moved the subscriptions very much.
Yeah.
Even though it was a big number. Because people just wouldn't do it.
I'll say, who wants to watch the last episode of Game of Thrones? Ugh.
I mean, there are a lot of people out there who just will not submit to the insanity. They're just like, you know what? There's too many ads on TV now. I'm out.
Well, today, as we're filming this today, today's the 23rd. Today's the day for Masters of the Universe Revelation.
Oh.
Ooh, I'm hyped. Actually, I think it's going to be terrible.
Can we do a watch party on Twitch?
It's Netflix.
It's not.
But I will not sign up for Netflix to get that. And even if that was the only way I could get it, because it's not, I still wouldn't do it. I would just not watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in that category.
And that is like, my nostalgia meter is just, there's mercury all over the floor and there's a burst top. I know they're going to ruin it, but still, I won't pay you for it. Sorry.
I have that same kind of aversion with Star Trek, because it's like, I've paid for the right to watch Star Trek in all of its glory. I don't need to rebuy it. I don't need to subscribe to watch old episodes.
I think my feelings about this are going to be synonymous with your feelings about Discovery.
And same with me watching the Lord of the Rings series next year.
Do we have a release date for that yet?
They said 2022. They didn't say when, because Wheel of Time's coming out this year.
I saw a clip that was posted to the internet from one of the episodes that had like the time code on it for something that they were working on for special effects or whatever. And I don't know what it was, but it was like an elf talking to something, and it did not look like it was going to be great.
No,
really?
I'm kind of worried. I hadn't seen that leak. There were some other leaks from the One Ring this week.
But that's pre-effects.
Yeah.
But the dialogue was just like...
There was sample scripts that got leaked early on when they were doing like the casting process, and the dialogue was not great in those either. They did not capture Tolkien's writing style, but maybe that was just, a sample script. So, maybe it's okay. Maybe it'll get better, but we'll see.
Well, Google made a bit of an oops this week, and thankfully, with open source, we get to see just how much of an oops. And you got to feel bad because we've all done it.
Yeah.
Maybe not on a production system of this scale, but we have all done it.
Google pushed a one-character typo to production, breaking Chrome OS devices. They broke a conditional statement that verifies passwords, and a fix is rolling out. So if you are one of the unfortunate people to get that update, you can't log into your device. Your options are to wipe it or wait until your device downloads another update at some point randomly between now and like a week from now.
What was the issue? 1 ampersand.
Look at that.
You can look at the diff here. They left out an ampersand.
Oopsie.
That will compile, but it won't work.
And now someone had to add a new test to the integration test.
But how do you push an update without logging in?
Because it's all automated. It's like...
no one's testing it? No human?
No, because they probably automated it all and they didn't have a test for that in the automated tests.
It's disgusting.
That's what Microsoft did. That's how we have Windows 10 in the state that it's in. We can test automatically. No, you can't.
It's easy to get hyped about space travel. I mean, the idea, the things that they're doing, the math and science that is on display when a rocket goes into space is staggering. And usually people are like, oh, I feel good about my country doing this. Imagine how good we felt about the space program, like in the 60s.
Yeah.
People did not share that enthusiasm about this one, and I can understand why.
Jeff Bezos on the critics of billionaires going to space. Well, they're probably mostly right.
The other thing he said after arriving back was, you all paid for this. Yeah. And I was like, tone deaf, you're going to get shot in the street.
Now, he did actually, because he knew this was coming, he'd already arranged to donate $100 million to something, and almost nobody covered that. But Jeff Bezos did donate $100 million to
and how much did he spend on the space flight?
Oh, a lot more than $100 million.
But that's like you or I donating $10,000.
No, like $5.
Yeah, for him, yeah.
So
I'm pretty sure I've given more value meal to like the homeless guy on the corner than Jeff Bezos, the the percentage wise of that.
Oh.
It's just like,
But that's unintended consequences. You're harming him.
because of the.
I like too that this article comes from the Make It website, which is like supposed to be, inspirational stories about entrepreneurs, and it's like, why are you featuring Jeff Bezos on here?
It's CNBC. Maybe.
Yeah, like that's like a certain like section of their site that's supposed to be inspirational.
There were two amazing things. One is Jon Stewart released a video that had some of his actor friends in it, which was funny. And then also somebody released a cut of, I think it was the scene from Austin Powers where like the rocket is coming back to Earth with Dr. Evil on it.
Yeah,
and
that was a good one.
It was like because the rocket was kind of phallic. And that was really funny to be reminded.
And by kind of,
Yeah.
it's very phallic.
The Blue Origin rocket is basically a penis. And the the flight pattern, because if you guys didn't watch it, the Blue Origin did not go into any kind of orbit or anything like that. It just went straight up and came to just a penetrating motion. If you looped it, it would just be thrusting into space. And it's kind of what he does to the Earth, right?
Well, and yeah, there was another post. Again, there was a lot of good comments, a lot of good nuggets from his press thing after he did this. And he was like, it's so empty up there. We should fill it with junk. And it's like, what? What's wrong with you?
It was, we need to move all the, like our blue marble is so fragile, we need to move all the polluting stuff into space.
And it's like, how do you think the stuff gets to space? Do you think that just goes up there magically? Or do you think they pollute the atmosphere to do that?
Via an Origin Prime subscription, obviously, Krista. So, yeah. People not too hyped about that. You think this will color Musk's ascent to the stars? Will people be already turned off?
I don't think he cares either.
It's funny that you mentioned that because there was a bit of a pissing contest between Bezos and Branson because Branson only went 50 miles to the edge of space and they went 62 miles to the edge of space. And so Bezos is like, no, technically I'm farther out in space. It's just like, oh my God.
It's just dick measuring.
It really, right, you think about what all the space race stuff we did before, and it's like, think of all the cool things we got from that and like the public good that did in terms of research and technology. And it's like, what are we getting from this?
Well, but
the answer is nothing.
Well, we probably are getting a lot, actually. But are we getting a third less because now we have three companies basically duplicating the same thing?
Yes.
Maybe.
I guess you're getting like the best of the three options because they're not necessarily doing exactly the same thing.
But you know what we're getting 3 times as much of? Arsenic in the atmosphere.
Which is important. We need that. Well, it seems like a crazy thing to me. Like, how many Disney lawyers have been working around the clock for the last week since this story came out?
Well, since this story broke, we'll be reporting next week that the company has decided to fold.
Yeah. Well, they didn't decide. The Magic Kingdom decided. But, Krista, are you still one of these sharers?
Oh, yeah.
Oh. But you are doing it with actual family and friends, right?
Yeah. It's actually all family. We share accounts.
And this service, in the terms, they're like, now you can only do this with family and friends.
Wink.
But in reality,
This site helps you get cheaper prices for subscriptions from Netflix and Disney Plus. How does it do that and get, in a way that is congruent with the terms of service of Disney Plus, Netflix, etc.? They say, hey, your family can use your plan. That's true. It depends on the plan. You can have a bigger family on some of the Netflix plans or a smaller family on some of the other ones. It's like, we help your family use your plan, but your family can also share the cost. That's pretty cool. Like, because some of your family are basically deadbeats, and if they're like, hey, I'll contribute $5 to your Netflix subscription, this is a technological way to enforce that, which is really awesome.
but most people probably don't use it in that manner. In fact, Fast Company did this story, but there was an update.
Yeah, the editor got banned from the service because he wrote the article and they reached out to them to ask for comment. And they're like, oh, you used this against the terms of service. I'm sorry, but we have to ban you. But a lot of people will accept connections from just any rando on the site. So it's like, hey, I've got a Netflix subscription. I'll just put it up on the site.
Literally the majority of them. Why, if you were going to do this with your family who's in the same house, because that's part of the terms, why would you not just give them a couple of bucks? Why would you run it through all these?
Because family is awful.
You're living with them. So this is really for people to use too. And that's a wink and a nod. So you can go on here. But the way this is shared, you literally just get the password. So if a bad actor gets into your thing, they can shut you right out.
Yep.
Terrible idea.
Then you got to make some calls, and then you got some explaining to do.
Tell me, do you think this is a worse idea than MoviePass?
I think this is a worse idea.
It is worse because at least with MoviePass, it's like that's just a bad deal. This could be a security problem.
Yeah, I guess that's probably true. And I think the two companies will end up in the same way. Well, it might be time to get hyped for a new GTA announcement.
Oh, this makes me so angry because I probably would buy the game, but not now.
Oh, come on. We're gonna buy it and stream it. What are you talking about? How do we know? Have they done a press release or something like that? How do we know something new is coming? No, none of that. We know something new is coming because they've done something terrible.
Take-Two has been issuing takedowns for GTA mods. Vice City and GTA Underground are among popular mods taken offline. There was a big kerfuffle a few years ago. Some of you may have forgotten. Rockstar, in my opinion, behaved badly with respect to modders and the modding scene.
Was it Rockstar or was it Take-Two?
Well,
it was
Take-Two.
Yeah.
They posted on their forum, their user forum, in like 2017. They're like, all right, just follow these rules and everything will be fine. Those rules were updated in 2019. They didn't change anything, but the new rules that they added were your mods can't reuse intellectual property from other games. So if you make a mod for GTA 5, it has to only use intellectual property from GTA 5. You can't use intellectual property from like GTA 3, even if you own both games. And the other thing is you can't make new missions or stories or anything, which is like the most amazing thing for Skyrim mods. Like the things that finish the stories and add new stories, like Oblivion,
New
where it
features,
had the generator, the procedurally generated things, and you could add stories to go with that. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. And there's stuff like that for GTA 5. Nope, all gone. They're taking it all down.
Why? Well, a lot of people are speculating that it's either they're hyping up for GTA 6, but more likely they're hyping up for a remaster of some of the old games. Some of these games had already built the old games in the newer engines.
Yeah.
So that'd be a competitor.
If they're gonna do like Nintendo, they're going to take all those the ROMs that people previously ripped it and just package them up and be like, look what we did.
They're gonna
didn't do anything.
They're gonna do what I did in college. Sometimes they're gonna go through and just change the variable names.
Yeah.
Yeah. So terrible thing. Well, AI does amazing things for us, but mostly in the modern day, it just kind of just crushes dissent and makes our lives horrible and shows us awful things that make us hate each other. But sometimes they do something good. However, this could also be used for terrible things.
Google turns AlphaFold loose on the entire human genome. The AI-driven structural predictions are being shared through a public database. So we've got several articles about this. I don't know if you cut all of them or whatever.
They were this. I just cut the other one.
Okay, this one's from Ars Technica, and so it is up. We've turned the AI, the one that played Go, we've turned it loose on protein folding, and except for a couple of edge case scenarios, which was not in the original data set, we've been able to use enough of the data that we've empirically collected by observing protein folding to train this AI, and it's figured out a lot of things about the mechanics of protein folding. In some scenarios, it only applies to like 86% or whatever of the proteins in the human genome, because some of them don't actually fold in any predictable way, and some of them only fold based on the presence of other proteins. The AI doesn't handle those. But most of the other proteins, it's figured out really well.
And the shape of the protein, which we previously did not know, is actually a huge indicator of how it will interact with other things. And there can be a lot of diagnostic data. For example, let's say that you had something that you would expect to not have a certain kind of protein, like a spike protein, but it's there. Why is it there? But we're not allowed to ask those questions. So don't ask that question. But you can ask other questions about the proteins.
Woo.
Autonomous driving has so far been limited to very easy driving areas. Was that what place is it in Arizona? It's just a grid. It's just a perfect grid.
And it's flat and dry.
Outside of like Phoenix or somewhere.
And it's a desert. You probably don't get a lot of road decay in the desert, right? There's no water to get in between those cracks. But one company is saying, you know what? That's easy mode. We don't waste our time with that. We go hardcore mode.
Intel's Mobileye begins testing autonomous vehicles in New York City. I saw a demo of this at Computex in 2018, and it was pretty impressive in 2018. So they've been working on it continuously the last 3 years. New York City.
Now they're keeping it small. 2 cars.
It's a small data
2
set.
cars going to be roaming around New York City. They are going to slowly increase that to 7. So we'll see. The amazing thing here, of course, we have Musk, who says, LiDAR, radar? Nah, you don't need that. And then he has a fleet of cars that are constantly doing horrible things out there. Other companies are saying you have to have that. That's the only way to do it. Mobileye is saying, you know what? We're going to do both. One car is going to be camera, the other car, LiDAR, radar, and later on, we'll join them together. A more powerful car.
Seems good.
Interesting approach. Although it probably does mean that one of the cars will do way worse and might cause problems, right?
You know.
Got to break a few eggs. In the United Arab Emirates, they have a lot of money, but you know what they don't have? Precipitation. So how do you solve that problem? Obviously with robots.
Drones are zapping clouds with electricity to create rain in the UAE. Isn't this exciting?
Traditionally, you drop salt into those clouds, and some people are like, what are the long-term effects of that? Should we really be just dropping salt in the clouds? And they're like, all right, fine, we'll shock them. Does that make you feel better, hippie?
Whatever way to dump lots of electrons into them, I guess.
And apparently it's working. They showed some videos here of rain falling.
Could they do that in California or Canada right now?
I think you can do it anywhere there's clouds. Aren't you creating a deficit somewhere, though, doing that? There's got to be a price.
There has to be
pay.
a problem, yeah. That causes, like, maybe it sucks moisture from other regions.
Engagement challenge. Oh, yeah, because those clouds are going to move and dump it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Is it going to be one of those things where it's like, if you build a dam, everybody downstream from you suffers?
Yeah.
If you seed your clouds, everybody, further down the thermals suffers, right?
Why are all the plants dying 50 miles from here? Well, they didn't get any water.
It didn't rain here, but it's raining in the city where we don't really need it for food production.
Las Vegas is green all of a sudden. But downtown Austin is dead. Oh, we already talked about this one. I did put this in nonsense.
NPR is like Jeff Bezos and 3 crewmates travel to space and back in under 15 minutes. Yeah, we didn't mention that it was a really short.
3 minutes of free float time.
It was just long enough to eat a Skittle.
Yeah, he threw a Skittle across, like he was on one side of the capsule, his brother was on the other side. He zero gravity tossed the Skittle, and his brother caught it in his mouth. What a great moment for humanity. Anyway.
Glad billions were spent on that.
Yeah. Do you think as they were descending after that 3 minutes, was there ever a moment where he was like, I really wasted a lot of money today?
Or do you think if you were the candy brand, do you think Skittles paid for that? Or do you think, man, that would be a bad PR move?
Wouldn't Skittles be the worst possible thing to have loose on a spaceship?
Why did they all die? A Skittle got caught underneath a servo. I don't know how this even got
The
here.
throttle just has a green Skittle jammed down in the bottom of it.
Oops.
The world's richest man died today because of a candy.
I feel like that would make Skittles stock go up.
Skittles, the giant killer. OpenAI is a company that has done a lot of really impressive things with robotics, but it seems like the dark reality of the modern day is that physical robots are not nearly as desirable as just data crunching robots.
Yeah.
OpenAI disbands its robotics research team. We've covered them before. The Rubik's Cube solving robot, it just had the one hand. But this is AI that was so impressive and so well trained that you could alter the characteristics of its physical robotic interface. Like they've got an aperture Velcro tie around 2 of the fingers, and it would learn to adapt really quickly. It's like, oh, the parameters of my robotic interface have changed. That's cool. I'll still work toward the Rubik's Cube solving. Although there was a disconcerting line in there that was, the robotics team, it worked every time, 20 to 60% of the time. And it's like,
It's a pretty wide range.
Do you think some of this might be, the team, they got together and they're like, oh, look at all these headlines. We went with ARM format. Dog format is the winner. We should have gone dog format.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll start up a new dog, because everybody's got one of those now, robot dog. Turns out that Branson and Bezos were not the only ones looking to fly up there close to the stars, but this one did not have the fanfare.
China launches a secretive suborbital vehicle for reusable space transportation system. Line 2 of this article is, there are no other pictures.
Yeah, we didn't get any footage of this guy. But it's, I think it's similar to Branson's, where there's going to be a space plane on top of a more powerful plane to get you up there, and then a small hop up.
Well, that worked for launching the shuttle. Oh, wait.
Well, it worked with Branson, too.
Well, we did test flights with the shuttle that way, but it was kind of weird.
Well, China's going to do it. And they had tested one previously. Now, this is a long format, like get it up there where it's real easy to stay afloat and stay up there for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, like maybe for surveillance.
Or if they could launch something into orbit and then toss a rope down.
I've always been fascinated by the, what do they call that? The space elevator.
Yeah.
Space elevator technology. I think a space elevator would revolutionize our world. But it's a difficult problem to solve, obviously.
Just load up all the nuclear waste on the elevator. Because putting all that nuclear waste on a rocket, not safe.
No.
And once it gets into orbit, then we can sort of nudge it toward the sun.
Just a little nudge. Just get it going. And not even the sun. Just get it going out, away from it. I guess the gravity would
Suck it
cause
back.
a problem.
That
Yeah.
one YouTube channel got me real excited for terraforming Venus. Let's get on it.
Yeah, YouTube channels are good at getting you hyped.
Yeah, you're like,
That are
oh,
never
that can
gonna
happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Now this is our last story. Now here's the challenge I want to give you. Oh, okay, whatever. We got the article or the headline. Imagine, let's say the year is 1990, right? And current day Ryan bursts through a portal into young Wendell's bedroom and says, "Young Wendell, read this headline. Look at this headline. This is your lifetime." How blown would your mind be? What image would this conjure up? Because this is the craziest headline. We don't think anything about it because it's the world we're living in. But this is the future, folks. This is sci-fi.
Astronomers push for global debate on giant satellite swarms. Working with the United Nations, scientists hope to establish standards for satellite mega constellations and reduce the disruption of astronomical observations. So, we're launching all these satellites in a relatively low Earth orbit in order to provide broadband, because our broadband companies have literally stolen the taxpayer dollars that we've given them to build infrastructure through corruption and greed. And we're doing this instead because there's no other option. They're so entrenched. They're like a little tick in there, and we can't get them out. So we have this mega constellation of satellites, which is really exciting, from a development and, continuation of the species and that kind of thing. Global internet access, free,
global swarms. I mean, that's crazy, that description.
Of course, we lose the observability of things in space. Now, what if this is an Illuminati thing? Like, finally we're getting to a point where you can just go get a $200 telescope and observe the universe teeming with life around us. Well, this could also stop that.
You would have to silence so many of the existing astronomers with access to the good telescopes, though.
Yeah.
That would be a difficult thing to do. But, I mean, it is crazy because you think, well, we've got the Starlink, right? Bezos is doing one. They're doing one in Europe. China's doing one. Wasn't somebody else doing one? I think China's doing one for Africa. Where does it end?
The only reason that I think that probably couldn't be true is because they would go to Elon Musk and be like, all right, you're going to launch a global mega constellation of satellites, and ostensibly it's going to be for providing internet access in the global region. But really, this is a planetary cloaking device, so, the devouring swarm doesn't find us. And he's like, wait, what? The devouring swarm? And it's like, yeah, here's the research, here's the thing, and, this is, this is above top secret, whatever. We need this to cloak the planet to hide the devouring swarm. And he's like, all right, I'm on it.
That's an excellent story that you just came up with. But I think a more likely story follows that one up until the point where it's like, oh, it's a cloaking device. And they say, oh, no, it's surveillance.
Yeah.
Global surveillance. That's what we wanted it for. I think that's much more likely.
Yeah, that could be the twist at the end. It's like, you stupid billionaires, you've built your own gilded cage.
It's like at the end of Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
But instead, he's looking at a monitor that's looking at him. And he's like, what did you do? But he has to look at himself.
But if you're a billionaire, you just leave the planet.
Well, no, this is after the Holocaust that's just destroyed everything because of his actions.
That's part two, Chris, is, look, we got to go to a planet that doesn't have any satellites. And then there's just one satellite around Mars.
I don't know, what would his version of the Statue of Liberty be so he could realize that he did it himself? The Gigafactory.
Probably.
With those giant batteries sticking out of the sand.
The Tesla that he sent up, the red one, a long time ago, it was just like on the beach right there. And it's like, wait, that was how it all started.
Somebody needs to do a alien invasion movie where the mothership comes, and then out of the mothership they drop the Tesla, full of guys with like guns and shit, coming down, drop it on the White House.
That'd be amazing. All right, what do we got lined up for Friday?
Nonsense and whatever we haven't done yet. Did we do security?
No.
No. Oh yeah, because it's all the NSO stuff.
Yep.
Krista, give us a satellite swarm goodbye.
Bye. Because that kind of makes me a little bit sad. Hello. Today's July 30th, and we're here with the last episode of the news for the week. Today we're doing security and nonsense.
How exciting. This first story is, you feel scared, but then you're like, well, I don't know, maybe he deserved that because, this organization, this is a lot of hypocrisy, but I will warn you, we have to go back, we have to think about the child predators.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? What are we saying? Yes, when the child predators are on the wrong side of encryption and law enforcement overreach and stuff like that, everybody's like, yeah, they just deserve it. Screw those guys. But it affects us all.
It does.
As does this.
The inevitable weaponization of data is here. If you missed this article, it's a story about a priest who used Grindr, not for anything illegal or even anything nefarious, although I guess
a Catholic priest, though,
a little hypocritical.
I'm sure has said bad things against it, right?
He was actually the one who denied Biden communion. Something like that.
Why does Biden not get communion?
I don't know, something he said or did or whatever.
Because he's too liberal?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how did they know that this guy was a homosexual? Did he post to social media or something like that? No. It's much more scary than that because this is anonymous data.
They bought the Grindr anonymous data.
Yeah, and how do you de-anonymize Grindr anonymous data? Well, it's actually pretty easy with location because there was one retreat where only this guy went to in a certain amount of time.
Yeah, it was like, we know where he lives because, Catholic.
Yeah, probably has a house or whatever, like a little room in the church.
Yeah, and it's like we see app access from here and here and here, and we can nail this guy down in all those locations. Ta-da! The data point is de-anonymized.
Is it fair if you are speaking out against a group of people on an institutional level? Is it fair that you get exposed as one of those people? Probably not. I mean, morally, it's such a difficult argument. But this is kind of like finding out somebody in the Communist Party is actually a Uyghur. But they've still been imprisoning their brethren because they like it in the Communist Party. That's what I would liken this to. It's disgusting no matter how you look at it.
Yeah, it's definitely unsettling.
And this is just more about that same story, basically. But this big anonymous data leak that got him, it's going to get a lot more people.
Huge data leak shatters the lie that the innocent need not fear surveillance. Well, let's be clear. This is not a leak. This was a database that was purchased and then released for free on the internet as kind of a warning of, hey, this kind of stuff is up for sale. So the leak part of it was you can get the database for free because somebody else paid for it. But if you were willing to buy it, it's been available the entire time as a feature, not a bug, and not an oversight, and not a security lapse.
And this is the big Pegasus story. We probably should have mentioned that. But all this data is coming from one source, and we know exactly who created this problem. We can go to them. They have a corporate structure. We can talk to them. And in fact, they have responded, I don't know if I like this answer.
Pegasus spyware seller, blame our customers, not us, for the hacking. So this is another thing where it's like, hey, there's something on your phone that's not supposed to be on your phone. So this is a different thing than apps selling data. But this is basically malware on your phone. But because it's state-sponsored malware and not malware bent on spreading a virus or mining cryptocurrency or whatever, it kind of flies under the radar. So this is on dozens, if not hundreds of phones, and they've spot-checked remnants of, or there was a list of people, and some of the people on the list have already been checked, and there is remnants of this spyware on their phones. But again, the NSO group's like, we only sell to terrorists. And then there's also this article.
They don't say they sell to terrorists. They say they sell to nation states
Looking
Yeah.
for terrorists.
against terrorists. But let's harken back. The
Freudian slip.
president of France.
Yeah.
So
He was caught up in this.
they sold to the Moroccan government, who chose the president of France as a target. Well, presumably. I don't know if we have proof of that, but there's a lot of evidence.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. And some other big names have come out in this data set.
And then the Telegram founder has been listed in a leaked Pegasus project data. So the Guardian reached out to the NSO group and said, this guy's on the list. And they said, well, just because they're on the list doesn't mean that they actually have the spyware. And so they said, so you're saying that you can check and see if this guy got software installed? And they said, yes. And then they said, okay, but did he have the spyware? And it's like, just because they're on the list doesn't mean they got the spyware. And it's like, that's not a direct answer.
That's a yes or no question.
Yeah.
Now, they talk to this guy or some of his people or whatever, and they do have kind of an explanation here in that he expatriated from Russia and is now a citizen in the
UAE.
United Arab Emirates,
Yeah.
who are definitely a customer of Pegasus.
And maybe you're doing research on this.
So maybe they're like, well, we're going to let this guy come to the country, but let's learn more about him, make sure he's good, So then maybe infect his phone is just standard operating procedure over there. Doesn't make it right, but maybe explains
Just
it.
how it is.
Yeah.
I think the Free Software Foundation also has a thing to look for remnants of that at this point, but I could be wrong.
Well, whoever broke it, whichever newspaper broke it, if you are on the list, you can come to them with your phone and they'll do the diagnostics.
Oh,
for
okay.
you. Yeah. And someone who gets a lot of mileage on social media out of all these hacks, and by that token is constantly on social media talking about hacks, is our old friend Snowden.
The Guardian also reports that Edward Snowden calls for spyware trade ban amid the Pegasus revelations. The NSA whistleblower warns of a world in which no phone is safe from state-sponsored hackers if no action is taken.
I think we're there.
This is a really interesting position because I feel like his position on encryption software, things like pretty good privacy, would be that must not be banned under any circumstances. And so this is a piece of software that is designed to, subvert the security of devices. So it's a different thing, but it's like, okay, yeah, maybe we should ban that as...
Well, but he makes that argument. It's not both sides of the coin. This is only hacking.
Yeah.
So this is only making missiles and not shields.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what he's against, I guess.
There wouldn't be any legit purpose that you would use to buy this. You could only use it to spy on your spouse or something that is, amoral. Whereas with encryption, there are good and bad uses of it, I guess.
Is there ever a moral reason to spy?
Don't think so.
Engagement challenge. And the NSO group, much like everybody else in the universe these days, had to be on the cloud. And I guess this is also a good and a bad thing, right? It's good that we can immediately destroy their infrastructure. It's bad that this group has control ultimately.
Amazon shuts down the NSO group infrastructure. Wait, Amazon? Nation state, we're Amazon. So apparently they were hosting on AWS, and Amazon was like, nope.
You're not anymore.
So that's surprising. How long until, somebody really looks into this and is like, is Amazon AWS selling anything to Iran? Are there shell companies that the NSO group is buying through to get Amazon Web Services? What? How deep does this rabbit hole go?
Aren't we already there? If Trump started some kind of thing like this? Yeah, we were already to the point where it's not just crime, although they would call it crime, right? It's all the beholder, the eye of the beholder. And the beholder here is the world's richest man, so he does what he wants. One thing about the security world, in the past 3 weeks, we have gotten so many new printer vector attacks. All of a sudden, people are like, hey, let's attack the printers.
16-year-old HP print driver bug impacts millions of Windows machines. So there's an HP driver that doesn't validate a whole bunch of things, and it's valid and it's signed by Microsoft. And so even if Microsoft pushes out an update, because they haven't revoked this specific driver, malware could just deploy the old printer driver, and then the hole in the machine is wide open again. It's a pretty nightmare scenario because even if you're patched and up to date, if the malware uses an old print driver because it bundles it, it looks like it's legit.
This allows the user to set the size of the data being sent. So all you have to do is set the size bigger than the buffer. pretty easy to do.
Yeah.
And like you say, pretty hard to stop.
Arbitrary code execution. Oh.
Because your printer needs that, right?
Yeah. Because the printer service is so badly designed.
And we've all already got our print spooler turned off, right? This is a nightmare scenario because we've talked about this where like they use the spoofing instead, but this is just a mistake. But think about all of your two factors all of a sudden.
Oh.
Yeah.
This, wow, you really have to get on top of this, but it seems like they're not concerned.
Toronto area woman wants Freedom Mobile to stop assigning her phone number to other people. So she was with Freedom Mobile and she had a Freedom Mobile number, but she took her number and went somewhere else. Freedom Mobile, when they go to sign up somebody else, they don't check if the number is in use anywhere. They check if the number is in use in their own system. So they'll sign up a new subscriber with her number, which doesn't work anywhere except Freedom Mobile. So like if you call the number, it'll work on Freedom Mobile. Like Freedom Mobile to Freedom Mobile will not route the number correctly. But because she's on a different carrier, when other people call the number looking for somebody on Freedom Mobile, they get her. And then they get mad at her. And this is like the third or fourth time it's happened.
That would drive me bonkers.
If you could target someone like that, you could easily steal their banking info, their crypto or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a terrible, terrible issue.
Or worse, their Twitch login.
Oh my God, their 2-letter Twitch handle. So valuable. For years, we've been talking about how little copy protection actually does for video games. And the reality of the situation is the companies that pay for these kinds of copy protections really only care about a 24 to 48 hour period. After that, they know it's going to be compromised. But they're willing to take those first day sales and they're willing to destroy our experience in return. This one is refreshing.
Ars Technica reports that fans ask a PC game to drop de novo, and a dev agrees and blames quote-unquote performance impact. And this is updated, so humankind's de novo woes were not something we can fix before release, dev says. Now, de novo, there's a really interesting note in here where the game developers were like, yeah, there were some performance issues, we removed de novo. And de novo reached out and was like, I think you want to clarify that, the performance issue thing. And they didn't actually say what that was, but they were copying Ars Technica on it. And the Ars Technica author speculates that maybe they meant that they didn't, the game developers aren't supposed to say that de novo copy protection just completely destroys the game performance.
I bet there's something in that contract.
Probably.
Yeah.
But I'm here to tell you that it's my opinion that de novo is absolute garbage and will absolutely destroy the traffic. It is just completely awful.
And you'll never get rid of it.
They got rid of it in this, and they got rid of it, or there's a cracked version of Resident Evil 8.
No, I mean once you install it on your machine.
Oh, yeah.
It always leaves remnants. Like when you uninstall the game, you don't lose de novo.
Yeah.
So it's terrible.
Oh.
But
cracking open a cold one.
Yeah, they also, like, there's a cracked version of Resident Evil 8 that doesn't have de novo, or maybe they've gotten rid of it by now. But it was really funny because they did a performance analysis of with and without de novo, and yeah, Resident Evil 8 was a lot better without de novo.
Was that the one they accidentally released to the main?
Yeah.
So yeah,
de novo garbage.
It's obvious all copy protection takes a performance hit. How could it not? By definition, it has to.
Oh, it's so sour.
Now this is
So
regular
Fanta?
Fanta. I don't even think we even need to talk about this because
Yeah, it's regular. It's not diet, and this is an ungodly amount of calories.
I mean sugar.
It's in another language.
Oh.
What?
Is this the
maybe
German
this
can?
Maybe this is real sugar Fanta.
I think it is.
Okay, well now we have to hear about it. It's German, right?
If it's German, it'll be Sugar, like with the Z.
Zucker? Yeah. Zuckerberg. Oh, Sugarberg.
Oh, so he's Sugarberg.
That's
Oh.
funny.
Is that Sugar Mountain?
It's 25 grams or 28% of my daily recommended. I could live off of just one can of these a day.
Yum.
And you wouldn't get scurvy. I don't know if there's actually any vitamin C in that.
It's delicious. I mean, I'll tell you that. It's delicious without being sugary. This is one of those drinks where you could drink like 3 or 4 of them, and then it's like, what is that? Is that my kidney shutting down?
But we need an American Fanta side by side. You got any more of those?
This does taste way different than American Fanta, because I had an American Fanta recently because of this. This
you
is
had a diet,
this
right?
is delightful. Yeah, it was a diet Fanta, But this is absolutely delightful. This is like an AA plus maybe.
Really? Because I would say Fanta is garbage tier.
It's not a thirst quencher. This would be like a special occasion, but not like an ice cream special occasion. This would be like I'm skipping dinner tonight and I want a filling drink.
Is that a use case you run into often?
Yeah, sometimes I forget to eat and it's like 8 p.m. and it's like I don't really want to eat this late, and then it's like
I tend to eat late. I'm not hungry right after.
That might be the worst choice for skipping a meal that you could possibly choose. Just pure sugar.
Yeah, it is. It's 28%. It's filling. It's like drinking gravy.
28% pure German sugar. Actually, they probably get it from somewhere else, right?
Yeah, sugar.
Or
cane
there's
does
sugar
not grow
cane.
there. Yeah.
Well, DuckDuckGo is launching a new product, and like all of its other products, this one's all about privacy.
DuckDuckGo launches a new email protection service to remove trackers. So you get an email in, and it's like, oh, it's got some links or nefarious stuff. Gone.
Pretty cool. And that duck.com email address, how bad do you want it? You better get in early. Get your 2-letter duck.com email address so that later you can be targeted online and it can be stolen from you. Well, last week we talked about the Freedom Phone, and there wasn't a lot of details about the Freedom Phone. Well, guess what? There still aren't a lot of details about the Freedom Phone. Gizmodo is making a lot of estimations here, but they're probably right.
MAGA-branded Freedom Phone is a black box that should be avoided at all costs, according to Gizmodo.com. Nobody can blame the GOP voters for wanting a phone, blah, 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 but the phone can't be trusted.
When I first saw articles about this, I thought it was that is it Libra phone? Or maybe the Fair phone?
There's a Libra phone. There's a Pine phone.
The Pine phone is legit.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's several like actual decent privacy-minded sort of phones, but this is not one from what I understand.
Now, this is a de-Googled Android, which is good if you're looking for this kind of thing, but it is a very generic Chinese-made smartphone that's not
It seems like you could just DIY this yourself. Like if you want to do this, you probably should be looking at Pine Phone, which I've got a Pine Phone. I've been meaning to do a review on it. They keep updating the software, and they keep making the software better. And so it's like, well, I don't want to do a review on this with
and
the
then
software.
have it be obsolete like a month later.
It's not for everybody, but if you don't mind DIYing it, you can get a very good phone DIY experience out of it, DIYing a few things.
Also, that phone, if it is the handset that they're guessing it is, there is not actual confirmation of that, but it seems very likely. The cost to the Freedom Phone people, probably around $100.
Yeah.
Their cost to you, right around $500.
Oh, not great.
So you could probably just go to China and get a similar phone that will spy on you just a little bit more, but you can get it for $100.
Or we could format it and it won't spy on you.
I don't know if you can guarantee that with the Communist Party. I'd say they have some deep hooks in that thing. Moving on to nonsense. Every time I see one of these stories, especially the world we're living in now, I'm just like, what are these idiots doing? Why would you invite this? We've already seen what could happen.
15,000-year-old viruses discovered in Tibetan glacier ice.
It's not a dog.
Most of the viruses were previously unknown to humans, the study finds.
Oh, that sounds good. Great.
So would you say it's novel? Is it a novel virus?
They actually use that word.
Yeah.
They also said that there's a lot of the organisms that they pulled back from the ice were extremophiles, which suggests that they could survive in slightly less extreme conditions.
It's like the club penguin of viruses around there.
Yeah. And this is also exposed in because the permafrost is melting and because things are warmer in that region than they have been historically in thousands of years. These viruses were going to be exposed anyway. This is more like an early warning than deep core drilling.
Oh, it's not going to be that soon, though.
Soon-ish.
Soonish.
I'm hoping that I'll be dead.
I don't think you will be. Unless, you opt out early.
If Antarctica would hurry up and melt, we could get the other Stargate out of there or something. I don't know.
Hurry up and melt. We could swim to the other. It'd just be underwater. What are we going to do then? What if we activate it and then all our water goes somewhere else? We could drain.
We'll drain the ocean
Oh,
using the
that would be the
Stargate. That's
answer.
amazing.
Just randomly destroy another universe.
I'm hoping that whoever built Atlantis could be like, by the way, if this is ever not covered in ice, you've really screwed up. Here's how to recover.
Atlantis Like its whole purpose was really to just be a sump pump for the future. And we lost that knowledge somewhere. So we don't know how to turn it on.
When things ever get this bad, blah, blah, blah.
Well, speaking of craziness, this is one of those physics articles that is just absolutely mind-bending. You really have to be in the right kind of headspace to just try to comprehend it, unless you have a deep understanding of these kinds of things.
Our universe might be a giant three-dimensional donut, really. So it says the observable universe is maybe a third to a quarter the size of this giant donut. And, even though we've observed parallel lines of things moving in a universe, it could still be a donut shape and things can move in parallel so that if you start at one point, eventually you would end up in that point again after some ungodly number of billions of years. Although they don't dispute that the donut is also expanding.
It's just making me hungry, I'm being honest.
Is there anything better than an infinitely expanding donut?
Yeah.
The only thing that this article is missing is to say that the rollover effect from, you get to you're going around the edge of the donut, so you end up back where you started, that's kind of like, an integer overflow in computers. So are we in a simulation? That's the only thing missing from this article.
That is actually, I think it was a series of books called The Forever War. Big spoiler here. The ending is, they're doing the time dilation stuff, and they're like, all right, just go as far as you can. Because they were doomed. They had doomed themselves. So they're like, all right, let's just see how far we can go into the future, just see what it's like. Because we're all going to die anyway. And they break the simulation. And the creator is like, you guys weren't supposed to do this.
Welcome, Joe. You're a sentient construct. There's no body for me to download you into. You're sentient, but you don't actually exist.
Well, Krista, have you been doing any hikes this summer?
A little bit, not as much. I don't like hiking during the summer when it's really, really hot. So I've been doing more just exercise hikes where I just hike around my neighborhood.
That doesn't seem like a very hardcore hiker who's like, oh, it's warm.
I don't like it when it's hot. Not when you got a back on your back. Too much.
Now you usually
Not enjoyable.
You go with predefined hiking routes, right?
Sometimes, yeah.
Do you ever whip out the phone?
Not really. Maybe usually to take photos, but I don't use it as a navigation tool.
No maps, right? Well, that may be the correct option.
Yes. Google Maps accused of offering potentially fatal hiking routes. Pro tip, do not use Google Maps on a hike. It will often not show things like water sources, water crossings, new trail junctions. It's bad news.
So what's happening here is that when you're looking at your hiking destination, you're trying to find a parking lot, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you drive to all of your hiking destinations, right?
Yes.
And you need to get from the parking lot to your ultimate hiking destination. Google doesn't quite understand this.
Yeah.
So this little dotted line right here, I think is the problem. That's maybe a very dangerous route to take.
But it's a straight line.
And going to take you a long way out of the way into just almost instant death.
I've actually experienced this before. Not while I was driving, but I was trying to figure out the best parking lot to park at for a local hiking trail. And if you don't know the exact name of the parking lot, it's do you just want to be in this general vicinity? And it's no, I need a parking lot. And it's I don't know. I think you just want to park on someone's property here. It's no.
I still remember the early days of Google Maps when it was you should take this person's farm road to get from A to B. And it's I think I'll get shot at if I do that.
Or it's just Google. Mud
yeah.
For the entire month of June.
Yeah.
And you can't get through it. We're doing stories like that. Well, the Olympics have begun, right? I think we had the opening ceremony already. I've seen a lot of headlines about Japanese guys getting fired for things that they've said and tweeted from the Olympic Committee. Apparently, they are just not caring what they're saying over there. They're dropping like flies. But there are some other tone-deaf things happening in the Olympic Park.
Athletes at the Tokyo Olympics are being given condoms and warnings not to use them. Not because usually, the Olympics have a bit of a reputation. This article sort of says that. But this is because of the quarantine rules. It makes it a lot harder to track. So they're well, we're going to give you these, but you shouldn't use them.
But it makes a lot of sense. It's the same as the military. You take a group of 20-somethings or less who are all in amazing shape and really good looking, and then you give them nothing to do for a long period of time.
What could possibly go wrong?
It's always going to result in one thing.
Did we do the story? Was it last week about the cardboard beds?
Yes.
Did we?
Yes.
Did we do that in the news? I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
But I think that's been debunked. I don't think, because now you got all kind of video of people like, no, they totally work for that, or they jump on them or something.
Yeah.
Impressive.
So, well, we have these interesting laws in the U.S., and boy, to me, and maybe I'm just, socio-politically stupid, but it seems to me that banning a group of people from boycotting something is a bit of overreach.
Yes. Yes.
And yet, you will be in a lot of trouble in a lot of social situations if you express that, because there is one country that seems to be beyond reproach.
This is from the BBC, and the Israeli Prime Minister has warned Unilever that there will be consequences over Ben & Jerry's, the ice cream maker, ban on selling Ben & Jerry's in the occupied regions of the place that I don't want to mention because of the algorithm.
It's a bank. But it's not an Eastern bank.
No.
It's a different one. So, yeah, they are still selling this in Israel. And they point out that are Ben & Jerry Jewish?
Yes.
So they have flavors. I don't know if they're sold here or not, but they are like Jewish holiday flavors. So they're
Mint and cream.
You're riding the edge here. But so they're very friendly, obviously, with that culture, but they've gone far enough to say, we don't like what you're doing with this occupation thing. And that's kind of like when you say things about the Chinese Communist Party. No.
And the Prime Minister is like, what are you doing?
So he's saying that he's trying to get the U.S. involved in some sort of retaliation.
It seems like an awful lot of insanity over ice cream, but...
Well, this is just like this, again, a story we did last week where, was it Lindsey Graham who was like, I will go to war for Chick-fil-A. And it's like, is everybody so bought by corporations that this is what we're arguing about now?
But in this case, well, it's the opposite in this case.
Yeah.
It's versus a corporation. It's not about this particular thing. It's about maintaining this unassailable position, right? When you can be criticized, you lose if you're him. You must stop all criticism. A bad thing happened to me a lot of years ago, so you're not allowed to criticize me. That's the story here.
I'm trying to think of other flavors. Mazel toffee.
Oh, that's a great engagement challenge, Krista.
Yeah. If you had to come up with, yeah, but like, don't be, don't be
That's maybe a really fun title for the new
Mazel toffee. Ice cream.
Mazel toffee has been banned.
Yeah. I would say that would be a fun challenge, but also probably people would be mean about it. So maybe not. Don't do that.
Yeah, you get negative ones.
Yeah.
Oh, don't do that.
Yeah. Well, it's been a while since we've seen one of these. Maybe they just don't get reported as much anymore. But it seems to happen constantly, and people never learn.
Oklahoma woman wanted for deadly shooting has been arrested after commenting on a police Facebook post. She asked what the reward was.
Well, she tried to do that. The actual quote is just, it's not really comprehensible.
Where's the reward money? Or reward money at on the post?
What's? Possessive what's. Maybe that was supposed to be a comma. What? Where's the reward money at? I guess she thought she was going to get reward money for herself, but no.
That's not how it works.
She was now arrested.
Weird.
She was an accomplice for murder. They'd arrested the other two people.
Why is her hair up in this photo, but all fanned out for the...
I think they wouldn't let her take a mugshot photo with stuff in her hair.
They let you keep your hair up in some mugshots, though. I've seen other people with their hair up.
I don't know.
I don't know what that rule is.
Well, Australia, it is a tired joke, but you can't help but make it. Everything in Australia wants to kill you. All the animals. The more you learn about it, the more it's true. One of the big ones that always wants to kill you in Australia are the sharks.
Australia renames shark attacks negative encounters to dispel man-eating monster perception. This has a total George Carlin vibe.
Now, I don't know about man-eating monsters, but I think eating monster would be a very apt description for sharks.
Yeah, they're
right?
big. Well, most of them are big, not all.
They're always moving and they're always killing. That's my understanding of sharks.
Yeah.
They're a predator. Not like looking to predate humans, but they are a predator.
Man, this would be so good if we could insert Captain Quint quotes into our show.
It's like a doll's eyes.
But we'd get in trouble for that. Hong Kong. You remember when Hong Kong was...
this was very sad.
when they were trying to tell the world what was happening to them?
Please save us.
And we were like, oh, poor Hong Kong. Except for Krista. She hated them. I just played Overwatch every day. Just putting money in Activision's pockets. But they're not allowed to do that anymore. And they have to get a little bit more creative. But you know what? The Communist Party, they don't care how creative you get.
The Guardian reports that 5 have been arrested in Hong Kong for sedition over a children's book about sheep. The book tries to explain that pro-democracy movement portraying the supporters as sheep surrounded by wolves. True to wolf life, the authors have been arrested on sedition.
Book 1, the sheep are using the same tactics they used in the Umbrella Revolution. Book 2, the wolves have won. And they're just trying to stay alive. Book 3, they're escaping by boat from the island, which actually happened. But those people did not escape.
Oh.
Yeah. And these people will not escape.
This isn't a good nonsense story. This is just a sad story.
Things are not great in Hong Kong right now.
Well, it's nonsensical that we live in a world where this is
A thing, yeah.
and our government.
Where the United Nations is not like WTF is going on.
There's no coalition of the willing to do anything about this. Remember the coalition of the willing?
It is a little disconcerting.
And finally, we talk a lot about the revolving door between
Oh my God, this made me so angry.
government and politics. Now, this is not exactly that, but if you'll think back about Boeing, remember when Boeing had a little bit of an issue with their planes dropping out of the sky?
There's software glitches, and then it was like, oh, you have to pay extra if you want extra safety measures.
Remember the floppy disk?
Yeah.
The Boeing had floppy disk drives on those airplanes, and they were falling out of the sky, and they were like, nah, this floppy disk is fine. This is all we need. Well, the big question is, how did Boeing get away with that without any fines? How is that possible? How do you explain that? Well, you have a perfect explanation.
CorporateCrimeReporter.com reports that lead Boeing prosecutor joins Boeing corporate criminal defense firm Kirkland & Ellis. So this is someone who was working as a prosecutor on the Boeing case.
The lead prosecutor.
Gathering intel, doing all of the stuff. And then she's like, you know what? I'm going to take that cushy 6, probably 7-figure job.
Not right away.
Not right away.
But I'm sure it was promised then, right?
Probably.
Yeah, so she gave them... A slap on the wrist is not the right description. Maybe a caress. A gentle touch.
You guys
She just
so,
wagged your finger. She didn't even touch him.
You guys are so impressive, what, with your flying machines?
An affirming squeeze. And then a couple of years, not even a couple of years later. How long ago was that? A year?
Not long.
It wasn't that long.
It didn't take that long, and oh boy, is she going to have a nice job for the rest of her life.
So angry.
Take a good look at her. Aaron Cox.
Her smug aura mocks me.
She could buy and sell all of us.
Yeah.
Now that's a depressing story.
Buy ads on the Level 1 news for next week. Aaron Cox is amazing. What are you talking about?
We don't have any more orange soda thoughts, do we?
There's another box that just came in. It wasn't cold.
No, I mean for this batch.
No, but Death of Flash Mug. This is whenever we're allowed to meet in person again with other developers. This is great.
I'm shocked at how good a response we've had for the Death of Flash.
Yeah,
Because
I never
Flash-
know. Yeah.
An untold number of our audience
I
have
get it.
suffered at the hands of Flash.
That's awful. It was terrible, yeah.
You never know what designs are going to sell the best. We'll see.
The worst was those companies that were still using Flash and you had to do business with, the electric company just changed.
Or the train station that was using
Oh, yeah.
Flash.
Our trains don't work anymore.
Yeah.
Oops.
All right, well.
Celebrate it, chat. We'll see you next week.
That's the last of my orange soda. My kidneys say goodbye.
That's the last of the news.
Bye.